rolling. Rolling on 1, rolling on 2. We should be live on YouTube. As I click some buttons here, we'll be live on Odyssey and on Rumble and on not live on BitChute, live on pill.net, live on Odyssey, Rumble, x.com, YouTube. There are only 5. I've said like 8. We tried a couple minutes ago. And as you saw, my Windows device drivers are acting up. They're staging themselves for a plot. So I've now got audio running through a pair of headphones. If anyone knows the brand that makes, I'll turn this down. If anyone knows the brand that makes the proper ear inset that I can wear so that I can have a monitor of the show and not be wearing a full over-the-ear headphone that constantly bumps into the mic. You'll see, professional podcasters and streamers with the little ear in piece, the ear inset, the in-ear earpiece. If you know what that is, or a good manufacturer for them, because when you look them up, you see the Timo product that's promoted on Amazon. It's like, oh, it's $50 for a pair of wired headphones, and that's not what you want. So, okay. We just tried to watch the beginning of this and had some technical difficulties. Now I'll flip it back to what I was trying to show you before. Are they going to give us a new speaker? A lieutenant governor? Okay, here, we'll watch this then.
How we doing?
The first speaker I thought was going to do a prayer, and instead it was a sales pitch for why Refi.
Y'all can do better than that. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, listen up, everybody. I'm Burt Jones. I'm Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Georgia. So good to be here with you today. And I can just tell you, I was just backstage with our Vice President. How many folks are excited about seeing J.D. Vance? So I went to the University of Georgia. I've graduated in 2002. I was on the football team up here. I was team captain of the SEC championship team. And I was talking to the vice president a second ago, and I said, "Have you ever been to an SEC football game?" And he said, "No, I don't believe I have." I was like, "So we're going to give you," I said, I'm going to let this audience show you what it's like to be at an SEC football game. Y'all want to do that? So I'm going to go, this side over here is going to go Georgia. This side over here is going to go Bulldogs. We're going to call the dogs for the vice president. Y'all ready to do that? All right, here we go. Georgia.
Have you ever seen something so gay? How about instead of that, we go back to this guy. I just want to show you what I was referring to. Please don't fuck the audio up because I want to watch the sales pitch. He's like, so many young Americans bought into debt. And think about the co-signers who are in the retirement. Well, we bought their debt. We're not letting them out of it, even though it was predatory, and we're admitting that. We want to cash in on it, and we're going to give you a nice way to pay off your debt slavery forever without feeling too much pain. We're a compassionate plantation owner.
Your ability to create and implement ideas that make the world a better place, also known as capitalism. So here we stand at a crossroads.
It's a prayer to capitalism.
And now more than ever, it's crucial that we give leaders who speak the truth, that we have leaders who speak the truth boldly. We need to get back to our conservative values. We need people willing to protect our God-given rights, which were carefully drafted into the Constitution. We must look back on history, warts and all, and learn from it, or we're destined to repeat it. More importantly, we need people willing to engage in a civil conversation. We need everyone to understand that sometimes these conversations can be tough, but conversations lead to turning points. So let's get real and talk about something that needs its own turning point, frankly, and that's the amount of debt the American population carries. Specifically,
listen to this guy.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. There's numerous reasons why our country is drowning in debt, but I think we can all agree that out of control government spending, waste, and theft are the primary reasons we have the problems we have. So I'm going to talk about one portion of that debt, and that's student loan debt. As of today, approximately $1.85 trillion.
He just sped through his elevator pitch to the investors as to, here are all the different debt decks. Here are the different strata of debt that Americans have. And depending on the different, see, these are all different investment vehicles for the guy with a bunch of cash. So what debt do I want to buy? And he's telling the investor, all these other versions of debt, these kind of sources of debt that these Americans can have, they come from fraud and spending and government expenses, etc. And that may not be debt that the people are going to be on the hook for, aka not a great debt you want to invest in. He skipped through a lot of the details because he realizes he's kind of more talking to the product at this point than he is talking to the investor in the company. So his company buys student debt that the people can never pay off at the current rate. The company that owns the debt knows this. They sell the block of debt off, and then he and his company are reaching out to the customers, not the people who have debt to them, not the people who are going to be paying off debt, but he's reaching out to big bankers to say, you want to buy this student debt because it never goes away. The student debt that people have never leaves them. If they die, then you'll sue their estate for their money. So owning the debt that they have from going to school, while we admit it's predatory and the other party just tried to write it off completely and make the banks eat the risk they took at trying to rob the next generation of Americans. If you took a bunch of people with an IQ of an average of 90 and you told them they'll be able to pay off this debt if they just signed this piece of paper, signing for it now, knowing that was a lie and you've coerced them, that's pretty sick, right? We would agree that predatory lending is always wrong. It's why it was illegal. He says, yeah, well, it already happened. So instead of fixing it, we're going to cash in. And so the people who invest at TPUSA can buy blocks of debt for $100,000 a piece. And when they do, they will get a dividend every month of roughly $800. This is what he's going to tell you. You'll get a dividend. And then he says, with that dividend, we hope you'll continue to give that back in some way, $50 a month donation to TPUSA. So you as a millionaire, take $100,000 in cash or just as a normal person in your 50s, go to your 401k and you take out $100,000 and you send it to his company, Refi. And that is their investment capital that allows them to go and target the people who have the debt that they need to pay off. And then you earn $800 a month on their investment. That's what TPUSA has always been. He's just going to now explain it to you.
Is in student loan debt. When I did that video, it was 1.8. That wasn't that long ago. That's held by approximately 45 million Americans. But the numbers the government gives does not tell the truth and the whole truth. Approximately 70% of students with a loan also have a co-borrower. In many cases, that's parents, grandparents who selflessly co-sign these student loans because they wanted their son, daughter, grandchild to get that better education. Well, 45 million Americans just blossomed into about 70 million Americans. This debt includes federal and private student loans, majority being federal. There are several ways to solve this problem, and the first is to remove the government from the lending business, get them out of the business of lending money, then return control to the private markets. Because if history has taught us anything, if you allow capitalism to address a problem, solutions can be found quickly. So my partner and I, we found Refi because we saw that millions of young people were graduating from college with insurmountable student loan debt, with no clear.
That's it, right there. He founded the company that buys the debt because he saw that people were being farmed out of colleges with insurmountable amount of debt. That's an opportunity for him. He doesn't see a solution for their issue. He sees a solution he can capitalize on because he knows if it's debt that is structured such that you can never pay it off, then you have no incentive to pay at all. But if he buys the debt and allows for the people who had the debt to now see a way out, they'll pay him. That's the whole solution he's providing.
Their path to repaying it. So I'd like to speak directly to the students and young leaders here today and those listening online. Many of you are dreaming big, and you should. You're building a future. You're investing in yourselves. You're taking the time. You're stepping into a world with passion and purpose. However, I also know that for many of you, that also brings decades of debt. At Refi, we hear those stories every day. Bright, capable, hardworking individuals who did everything right. They went to school, they tried to build a better life, and yet they found themselves trapped under the weight of crippling student loan debt. Here's what I want you to know. That debt does not define you. It does not erase your potential. It does not have to dictate your future. Sadly, borrowers who fall behind in their payments or default have very few options. Many of the stories we hear of students drowning in debt are heartbreaking. Parents and grandparents who co-signed a student loan only to find out there was a problem when the collection calls started. It's indentured servitude. It doesn't have to be. At Refi, our mission is very simple and powerful. We refinance distressed private student loans, not by chasing people down, not by writing them off, but by offering a manageable, sustainable way to get out of debt quickly. We believe in second chances. We believe in accountability, and we believe in doing what no other company has done before. Help borrowers succeed by quickly paying back their student loans with dignity rather than punishing them with predatory loans. At Refi, we believe you are more than your student loan balance. You are worth believing in. If you need our help, check us out at Refi.com. When you call, you won't be directed to an offshore call center. You're going to be talking to a human being, no phone trees, right here in America. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. So whether you need your help...
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to call the good folks at TPUSA's financial backer in Arizona. I want to put myself on their radar. That's what I want.
Whether you need our help or not, I'd like you to carry this with you. Never let debt steal your drive. Never let a setback silence your purpose. There is always a way forward and people who believe in you. So I'd like to direct this next point to those in the audience and online who believe in the principles of capitalism, entrepreneurship, innovation, and the American dream.
The first piece was like, hey, in case I have any, former or future customers here, in case I have any college students with a ton of debt, this might be for you. Now I'm going to pivot my sales pitch to the people in the back of the room and in the club seats, and the people in the big boxes up there with a bunch of money. This next part is for you.
My partner and I founded Refi based on these principles, and for those reasons, we have chosen not to use institutional capital. We raise all of our money through accredited investors, just like you and me.
Right there, he's like, oh, it's a principled thing that we only take private money. We don't go to big banks and have them fund our business. We know it's a really good investment. So we're letting you pay us. How magnanimous.
So if you'd like to learn more about our mission and an investment that's not tied to the stock market, give us a look up at investrefi.com. Our mission...
The investment's not tied to the stock market. It's tied to debt dollars they've already sold idiot students who have no way of paying it. Don't you want to invest in the housing bubble of 2008 before it bursts? That's what he's offering right now. Hey, there's a bunch of people who just got home loans that they will not be able to pay. Don't you want to invest in those? No, that's bad debt. Those are bad blocks of debt. He's saying that he's going to buy that debt so that the government, doesn't allow people to default on it. This is student debt. They'll always be paying. And so instead of chasing people down, it's a compassionate way to get them to come off of their last quarter. Crazy.
Our motto says it all. Doing well by doing good. You're in this room or you're watching online because you believe in and support Turning Point and its mission. If you like the Refi mission, we'd like to leave you with one idea. You may have heard our commercials and endorsements sharing how we pay fixed interest rates to investors. It's true. We've been doing that for years.
If
participating and supporting both Turning Point and Refi are of interest, here's something to consider. If you are to invest $100,000 with Refi, because we calculate interest daily and make monthly payments of interest only, you're going to receive about $800 a month. Maybe you send some of that to Turning Point every month in support of the mission. Maybe you take some of that for yourself or another charity that's of interest to you. If you'd like to learn more about that, check us out at investrefi.com. Now, as I close, I'd like to take a moment to honor Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk. Their belief in Refi has meant the world to me and our employees. Charlie and Erica believe not just in what Refi stands for, but our mission, our approach, and the impact we make. Erica continues to support and inspire us every day to keep pushing forward and fighting for the idea that everyone deserves a path to redemption and prosperity.
That's crazy.
So Erica,
that's crazy to me.
Thank you for your friendship and belief.
That sounds just like Josh Hammer saying, oh, the night before he died, Charlie called me and told me he loved my book and wanted everyone to read it. He was so happy we had the book. That rings about as true as that to me. All right. Just not to be a downer, but that doesn't seem legitimate at all. He's like, hey, let me come out and tell you the money behind this whole operation and why, if you're a rich money guy too, you can get in at $100,000 a pop.
Please welcome Chapter President Caroline Maddox.
Who the hell is this?
Good evening, UGA. How are we feeling tonight? My name is Caroline Maddox. I'm the chapter president here at UGA, and it is my honor to stand before you tonight. I just want to thank you all so much for showing up tonight. The response to this event has been absolutely incredible, and our chapter has been absolutely blown away by the excitement from our campus and community. It is such an honor to welcome you to this Turning Point tour here at the University of Georgia. We'd also like to take a moment to thank Campus PD and local law enforcement for their hard work and diligence in keeping us safe this evening. I also want to give a huge thank you to my reps, Grant, Emily, and Rachel, and the entire team at Turning Point USA. They truly are amazing. Tonight is about more than just one event. It's about having the courage to think for yourself, speak freely, and stand firm in what you believe. That is exactly what Charlie Kirk fought and died for, and that is why this night matters so much. Charlie Kirk started the movement for so many of us. He faithfully led the way. He encouraged us to stand up for what's right, love America, and keep our country great. Without his example and his work, I can confidently say I would not be standing on this stage in front of you tonight. Charlie's death was not the end of the movement, it was just the beginning. It was the beginning because students across the country have picked up the mic day in and day out to fight for this great country and continue to make it great. The values in this country that Charlie fought for cannot be forgotten, and we have to continue the movement every single day. In our community and across this great nation, we have to remember and continue to fight because America is truly the greatest country in the world, and we have to continue to fight for it. If you want to get involved with our chapter and make an impact on this campus because we desperately need a change, we would love to have you. While you're here tonight, make sure you check out your voter registration status online using the QR code you received when entering the venue. And for the ladies, Turning Point USA's Women's Leadership Summit will be held in San Antonio, Texas, June 5th through 7th. Please come see our chapter at the Get Involved table near the entrance to learn more. Now, before we begin, let's do one thing together. Everyone has a rally sign on their chair, so get ready to hold it up high for a photo and give us your loudest cheer. On 3 for Charlie. 1, 2, 3. I would just like to thank the Turning Point team one more time for tonight. This is an awesome event. Thank you all again for being here, and let's make some noise and get this thing started.
I didn't want to say that she was a cheerleader when she came out, but that was proof right there.
I think Charlie represented freedom of speech that a lot of people are scared to have.
Who the hell is that? Miley Cyrus? It looks a little weird.
Especially in this time and in this generation. He gives people my age, that are younger generation, the confidence to...
All right, let's skip a little bit. Can we skip a little bit? Can we skidoo up to the Lieutenant G? Hey, I was a big football player, and I asked J.D. Vance he ever been to SEC football. He said no. I'm like, well, we got to get you out there, friend.
Come on, y'all can do better than that. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, listen up, everybody. I'm Burt Jones. I'm Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Georgia. So good to be here with you today. And I can just tell you, I was just backstage with our Vice President. How many folks are excited about seeing J.D. Vance? So I went to the University.
How many of y'all are super excited to see J.D. Vance, the assassin? How many of y'all are super excited to see J.D. Vance? You know, the guy that just promised you he would stop a war over in some God knows forsaken place? And then he's back here now to tell you all in Georgia he didn't do it. Who's ready to see him? He's sending y'all off to war. Who's ready?
University of Georgia. I graduated in 2002. I was on the football team up here. I was team captain of the SEC championship team. And I was talking to the vice president a second ago, and I said, have you ever been to an SEC football game? And he said, no, I don't believe I have.
Lordy.
I was like, so we're going to give you, I said, I'm going to let this audience show you what it's like to be.
All right. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to go skidoo, new tab. Is Candace on? She is. Let's check her out. I'm just bopping around right now. I'm just going to find a show and settle. I'm a man. I flip channels.
All right, you guys, happy Tuesday. I have an episode for you. I really have an episode for you. You should just be sitting down and watching this with somebody because your jaw is just going to be on the ground. You know, I have been saying that it is just not possible that everyone that Erica Kirk has involved with Turning Point USA via Turning Point Faith seems to have a connection to trafficking, right? They all seem to be working in the industry charitably, of course. They're rescuing people. I just find that to be impossible. And I also, of course, they're rescuing people. I just find that to be impossible. And I also find it to be increasingly problematic. So like I said, I have a story for you today about another one of these pastors that she's very close with. And it's going to throw you for a loop. In my personal view, Erica just cannot keep dancing adjacent to allegations of trafficking her entire life. Life is actually just not that complicated, least of all for someone who constantly discusses her deep relationship with the Lord. It's a battle bun kind of Tuesday, so welcome back to Candace.
Erica is connected to trafficking the way that we see Ghislaine, always accused to be connected to and related to and associated and adjacent to the traffickers. At what point do you just say, oh my God, she is the trafficker? She's the madam. Turning
Point Faith was the infiltration. How many times have you heard me say that over and over again? That was the big sea change. I guess that's a better way of putting it. When I left the organization Charlie had just met Erica, a young woman who presented herself as being on fire for the Lord. And I feel like I blinked and suddenly the organization, which was once fully committed to free markets and capitalism, became all about the church. But whose church? Who is the Lord regarding which Erica is always referring to, right? People have noted that she rarely says Jesus Christ. Maybe they're nitpicking. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but during her first public address to the nation on September 12th, when she said, go to turningpointusa.com right now, she explicitly said in that speech, which was not written by her, I was told it was written by Blake Neff, that, quote, Charlie witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And then during the memorial, same deal, she similarly said, and I quote, one moment Charlie was doing what he loved, he blinked, and he saw his Savior in heaven. Now, that could be because Erica's not writing her own speeches, I'm told. Erica didn't eulogize her own husband. Maybe that's why it felt a little impersonal. Blake Neff came in with a heavy assist. Now, that's unimaginable to me. Similarly, Justin Strife did not write his own speech for the memorial. I'm told the broader point, though, for me, is that whenever I hear Erica discussing the Lord, as she typically says, it makes my skin crawl. It's not how I feel when I'm speaking about God with other people. There's something about the manner in which she says it that makes my skin crawl. Just like many of the troubled pastors that she has decided to partner with and to work with, despite the many troubling allegations against them. Which brings us to some shocking news for you today. Because for months, I have just been quietly working on my Egyptian plane timeline. Started with one plane, then I realized there was 2 planes, 3 planes, 4 planes. Never paying attention to the noise, right? I rather early realized a bizarre pattern that appeared to me at first, at second, and at third glance. I went, why do I feel like I'm looking at trafficking of some description? I don't know if it's drugs, I don't know if it's weapons, but this seems to me to be a very interesting pattern. Is product moving into the United States? Is it moving out of the United States? That's what I saw just when I looked through it myself. Very quickly. I told you I was very good at pattern recognition. Do not sleep on me when it comes to putting together a puzzle or a pattern. I'm gifted. And I was just sort of noticing how the planes, foremost, were stopping over in states and cities with military bases. And that more crucially, after Mikey McCoy becomes the chief of staff in January of 2024, Charlie suddenly, his schedule is beginning to mirror these Egyptian planes. Now, prior to Mikey McCoy's appointment, because I had to go back further, in 2023, because that's when Turning Point USA Faith actually begins, these planes seemed to be tracking Turning Point Faith events more broadly. But once Mikey McCoy is announced the chief of staff in January of 2024, again, it seems like suddenly Charlie is just doing a lot in Kansas and in Nebraska and in Missouri, crossing with these planes. I couldn't state it definitively that I felt like I was looking at trafficking, but I trust my instincts. And my instincts only grew stronger when Erica had the complete wrong reaction, or rather no reaction or concern or even mild interest in a foreign plane, 2 foreign planes that departed just before and just after her husband's assassination. It's like she didn't know how to play the parts of a human being, right? Hey, Erica, you should be concerned. Even if it turns out to be nothing, you should want to know more about those foreign planes. Like, you should be calling Joe Kent, right? Being like, oh, do you know who was on these planes actually, just to make sure, rule that out. No.
Right. You hear about foreign planes, about should be the first question you have.
She doesn't want the public looking at the Egyptian planes.
Weird.
Anyway, as I was working through this spreadsheet, even more last week, we were contacted by someone who said that he was afraid for his life, but that he felt that he had to speak out and tell the truth for Charlie. Now, I wasn't sure if he was being melodramatic. We get a lot of emails. We get a lot of people that reach out. They will claim to have a very big story. And sometimes they don't have that much to add or to share. But after speaking to him on the phone and then saying, let me just read through your email more thoroughly, I am certain he was not being dramatic, at all, actually. So I'm going to tell you about this young man. His name is Corby Hall. And Corby Hall, you should know, manufactures guns. Specifically, he began to manufacture a specific gun, which I'm going to tell you more about, that a Turning Point Faith-affiliated pastor named Victor Marx was interested in owning. He wanted to purchase his company. Now, like many of the affiliated pastors with Turning Point Faith, he also happens to be a Marine veteran. He is currently, you should know, running for governor of Colorado. And he chose to announce his intention to run for governor of Colorado at a Charlie Kirk memorial event in Denver on September 14th, just a couple of days after Charlie was assassinated. He said that he felt in that moment, given the weight of the assassination, that God was calling him to run. Mm-hmm. Okay. How else is he tied to Turning Point? Well, he teaches an online educational course for Turning Point Faith entitled Freedom from Pornography. He also claims his 20-year-old son was at one point Charlie Kirk's assistant who, quote, spent much time with Erica and their first baby girl, end quote. Now, we've been unable to confirm that he was Charlie's assistant. I certainly don't remember him being Charlie's assistant, but we'll take Victor Marx's word for it. And more crucially, you should know that he's not lying about his relationship with Erica, at the very least, right? Because Pastor Victor Marx and his wife, Eileen Marx, were one of the very first people to go see and greet Erica in the days following Charlie's assassination. They comforted her with cameras rolling, of course, because as we have established, it is perfectly normal to record these intimate, private moments of you grieving and seeing your friends after your husband was brutally assassinated in front of the world, right? You see your friend less than 48 hours later, make sure the cameras are going to capture your grief. And then not only should they capture your grief that first time you hug your friend and see them, someone should just be like recording for Instagram. Then someone should upload it to Instagram, as Victor Marx did, and put some, impassioned music behind it. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that beautiful hug captured and shared between Erica Kirk and Eileen Marx. Take a look.
Is what it means to be held, how it feels.
It says the moment that Erica Kirk sees Eileen for the first time after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay. If you're interested in that music, that song was called...
Talk about inserting yourself into the moment. He's like, hey, when you give her a hug, I'm going to record it and then I'm going to slow-mo it and upload it and make it look like you were just an angel sent from heaven. We're going to make the name Eileen Marx famous, he thought. How sick.
Held by Natalie Grant. Beautiful, just beautiful. Could you imagine it, though? Could you imagine that, letting people capture that? None of this is normal. This was a grief marketing campaign, but I digress because first I should point out, you may have also noted that Erica has her phone in her hand, the one that she allegedly did not turn on for weeks after Charlie died. But I digress again because I'm going to show you another photo this time of Erica being comforted by her dear friend Victor Marx in the building that she lives in. Again, we are like 72 hours after Charlie's death. She is in her own personal space. For some reason, they just felt like photography was welcomed. Is that weird? Yes, of course it's weird. If somebody came at me in a moment of grief with a camera to take pictures of me crying after I got out of a car to see them, I would hit someone. I think that's a more normal reaction. Like, how dare you? How dare you be so invasive as to capture me in this moment of weakness and confusion? No, they wanted it captured and put onto the internet. That's what Erica wanted. I sense that. But there's more that you should know about Pastor Victor Marx, because he's a very complicated fellow, like all of the pastors that I come across that are affiliated with Turning Point Faith. Now, on background, you should know that his real name is Vaughn Victor Kennedy. Well, he says it's Vaughn. His military record says it's Vo with no N at the end, but we'll say Vaughn Victor Kennedy. Now, by the time he was 17, he had lived in 17 homes and attended 14 schools. He was involved with drugs, fights, and theft in high school. He regularly tells the story about the abuse that he endured at the hands of his stepfather, a man that he refers to as Mr. K. But his stepfather's real name was Glois Dean Kennedy. and his stepfather served in the army and did counterintelligence. And thereafter, he ran an international drug smuggling ring out of Jamaica, for which he eventually pled guilty and was convicted of conspiracy in 1987 for attempting to import 1,400 pounds of marijuana from Jamaica. Also charges which included money laundering, aiding and abetting. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Okay. Now, Victor's brother, Mike Kennedy, who would go on to become an attorney, also pled guilty as the co-conspirator in that drug trafficking ring. He took a plea deal, so he only served a year and a day in exchange for testifying against his stepfather, Glois. What about his biological dad?
Damn. So the stepfather goes to prison for running it all, and one of the sons is a rat, and so he gets essentially a slap on the wrist for rolling.
Marx's biological dad was apparently cut from the same cloth. His name was Karl Marx. Okay? And he was a pimp, a drug dealer, and also a world-famous martial arts expert who spent time in a mental hospital for his homicidal tendencies. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking maybe Victor had angelic grandparents who kept him safe from all of this dysfunction, but you would be wrong. Now, unfortunately, his grandfather, on his dad's side, killed his grandmother before he turned the gun on himself and committed suicide in public. What about Victor himself? Well, Victor killed a man at the age of 7, but to be clear, Victor is very open about that story, as he is with every story. Some people don't believe his stories. I'll let you be the judge. And he makes it clear that his stepfather made him do it in a moment of terrifying abuse. And I will let you hear Victor in his own words tell that story. Take a listen.
When we walked in, there was another fella in this little wooden house. There was a hole cut through the wood floor. You don't run, you don't tell, because there's...
That's where I've seen him before, is the Sean Ryan show. This is the guy who said he was forced to kill a kid when he was 7 years old.
No way out. You don't have any control over your life, so you just do. And
This is the pastor that is hugging Erica Kirk after Charlie was killed, and he was the one who was showing interest in buying a specially made gun and the company that makes it. Weird.
Hear them discussing, and this guy says, I don't want to do this anymore. I thought, this is the day he's just going to kill me. And I heard my stepfather tell him, oh, it's okay. When the guy kind of relaxed, my stepfather punched him, bam, knocked him unconscious, drug him to the hole in the floor, sat him up on his knees, handcuffed him, and then he pulled out a pistol. And he said, come here, boy, you're going to shoot this man. I remember standing behind him, and he placed the pistol in my hand. It was just like, I can't. My stepfather, he put one hand on my wrist, and he put his finger over my trigger finger, and then he pushed, and I pulled, and I shot the guy in his head, and it killed him. Oh, he slumped over. He wiped his hand on the blood on the wood floor, and he slapped it in my face and mouth, like they do when you kill your first deer. And he says,
Is there not like a statute of limitations that is extended and forever when that happens? Now, I understand you're going to say, well, he was 7. He can't be charged. What? He was not the narc. This is not the brother that told on the dad and got in trouble and went to prison. He's the other one that held his tongue the whole time and is still probably doing it because the CIA goes, hey, we need some wet work done. And we know that you are tied to it from your stepdad and your real dad and your grandpa. And when someone commits a homicide, suicide, like this grandfather supposedly did, I'm told that the grandpa killed his wife and then killed himself in public. What do you think that was, maybe a tying up of a loose end?
boy, that's your first kill of a man.
Now, to be clear, the part that you didn't hear is he says that his dad invited this man over to abuse him, and then the man couldn't do it, so then he killed him. But then right after the story, when he slaps him in the face, he says that's the last time his stepfather ever abused him. So that ended the abuse from his stepfather. Now, in case you're wondering what happened to the body of that guy, Victor says that they dug up, put it under the house. They went somewhere, dug it up, put it in a backyard somewhere. But 40 years later, he had a guilty conscience about it, obviously when he was an adult, and he walked into a police station and told the police they had killed this guy and kind of buried him in the backyard. But that particular police officer was like, oh, it's okay. It's been a long time, so it's all good. Again, some people struggle to believe some of his stories. I'm not here to judge his stories. I'm just going to tell you what he says. I think it would be fair for us to suggest that growing up in this particular environment, Victor Marx might have learned a thing or two about moving illegal product across borders. Is that a fair assessment, right? Kids, you grow up, you see what your parents do, you might learn a thing or two. Well, I'll tell you what happens next. At the age of 18, Victor joined the Marine Corps. To be clear, he only served for 2 years during peacetime, stateside, no deployments before he was discharged. But this is a crucial period because that is when he says he found Jesus Christ. And he was stationed at Camp Pendleton in California and began attending the nearby Calvary Chapel. Honestly, my personal favorite church at this point. That happened in 1986. 2 years later, in 1988, he married his wife, Eileen, who you just saw Erica hugging, Eileen Brining Marx, and they would go on to have 5 kids and grandkids. In 2003, he and his brother, who got that light sentence, who was out of prison, now began All Things Possible Ministries. Okay, that's it. They were saved, of course. Calvary Chapel, as we have shown you in the past, has a long history of these sorts of characters going on to become pastors, getting involved. So the fact that he got his story started with faith with Calvary Chapel, this makes sense to me. Now, it wasn't all peaches, I'll say that. In 2023, there are so many stories I could tell you, but I'm just trying to limit some of them. In 2003, Eileen, his wife's brother, Kenneth, for some reason, his brother-in-law tried to shoot him on his own property. Fortunately, Victor made it out okay, but Eileen's brother would go on to kill his own girlfriend, for which I believe he is currently awaiting trial. Okay, a lot going on in this family. So how is Victor as a husband and a father, you might be wondering? Well, he openly admits that he punches holes in the walls of his house about once a year, and he tells his wives and his kids not to cover it up so that people can see what he's done when they come over. He also openly states that he himself struggles with suicidal and homicidal tendencies.
Well, now listen. We all live in this current world. We all live in the world of 2026. We all see the news. We all see what these people are up to. We all have access to the Epstein files. If you don't feel some kind of suicidal and or homicidal way when you look at some of the news, sometimes at least half of a fraction of a percentage, then do you even have an emotional part of you at all? Do you even have a soul? Do you not see what's going on in Israel right now and kind of feel like a twinge of like oh, I get it. I understand now why some people could press a button.
What does that mean? What does that mean when you struggle with homicidal tendencies? What is that?
For the record, I don't struggle at all. I understand what she's saying. I'm not saying that. That's different. Don't anyone call. I'm just suggesting that to simply say, yeah, that guy said someone deserved to die. He should be locked up. You're saying the same thing that he's saying, really. Anyways.
What does that actually mean? Did I mention that he's running for the governor of Colorado? Good luck, Colorado. See you never if this man wins.
Now, I'm not going to say, oh, he should be completely disregarded if he like legitimately thought he was going to kill himself. And so he went and checked himself in somewhere. Right? You don't judge someone for that because that's what we tell them to do. If that's how they're going to do, that's how they feel. But I want to hear that again. He wasn't imprisoned for threatening someone, right?
Once a year, and he tells his wives and his kids not to cover it up so that people can see what he's done when they come over.
Fully psychotic.
He also openly states that he himself struggles with suicidal and homicidal tendencies.
That's different. If he says he's struggling with both, that's not good.
What does that mean?
Struggling is the key hinge word there. Struggling is really the operative term there. You should not be struggling with those thoughts. If you have them, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a logical, rational conclusion to what I just saw them doing in those files. Okay. You shouldn't struggle, though. Struggling implies you're losing control.
What does that mean when you struggle with homicidal tendencies? What does that actually mean? Did I mention that he's running for the governor of Colorado. Good luck, Colorado. See you never if this man wins. Anyway, so what does this have to do with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point and September 10th? Well, I am going to tell you because Victor, like a stepdaddy, was allegedly interested in trafficking, particularly arms, over to Haiti. And he contacted a man named Corby Hall to get this done. Now, Corby, I'm going to read you his statement, and so you know exactly who he is. And it starts with, I, Corby Hall, am the inventor, the founder, and the sole owner of Fold AR, a uniquely positioned firearms development company that specializes in producing the most compact rifles that have ever been created. By way of my patented technology, Fold AR manufactures and sells full capability rifles that remain fully assembled and deployable from a standard sized backpack within seconds. Now I'm going to show you that product that he makes, and I will also tell you that he created this after a school shooting. He became passionate. He wanted to help school resource officers.
Dude, are we going to find out that they had someone else with a backpack and a gun right there up under the table to just fire into Charlie when they detonate his stuff? Because, you know, we see tons of things flying around in the air, you know, little dragonfly drones, and, you know, they say, oh, there's just horse flies all over. The place was lousy with them. Okay. We also see, though, drones filming above. So there are things in the air above Charlie Kirk on 910 that they still do not admit to, even though we can see them. And the things that they originally claimed were insects, you now have to question, like, okay, well, were they all insects? A year and a half, no, 2 years ago in Butler, PA, you were told they captured a bullet moving in a frame. But now a year later, when it's Charlie Kirk and there's video and you see things flying all over, they go, no, those were not anything. Those were just bugs. Now we find out a bunch of people related to this incident each have a history of, in their own individual little stories, like this one man, Victor. He had reached out to an individual who had a company that produced a collapsible, foldable AR that they could hide in a backpack. That is unrelated to the the complex explosives company that just blew up in Kentucky that Stu Peters talked about 6 months ago. Right? They developed a device. They had a small explosive device. They sold it. They moved it. Then they blew up. And now the company doesn't exist. Or it moved or whatever. So now Colby Hall, we're going to be told, I think is his name, had a similar thing happen. They reached out to him. He didn't sell. And now after the fact, he sees, oh my God, that's the guy who reached out to me. And he's putting it together that maybe they tried to buy his weapon to use. Isn't it funny how the rifle that this perfectly aligns with the theory that I've been going with, which is that they knew Tyler Robinson had a rifle based on the data and the research and the building of a profile to find the patsy that they could use in this op. They already had their target. They needed to find a patsy. So they found a patsy based on Tyler's own profile. And then they spoofed people into a Discord that he was in, and then entrapped him from there. They collected his rifle days prior to this shooting in UVU, at UVU. And so, well, I say shooting because that's what we're generically, colloquially calling the Charlie Kirk assassination. They stage it to appear as if it was a shooting. They already have his rifle when the neighbors say, yeah, days prior to that incident, we had strange cars with plates we'd never seen before, people we'd never seen before, go into Tyler's house with him and then come out with something and leave. And we don't know who they were or what it was. I believe it was the rifle that they later found. Even though dogs had swept the area, they must have had a bad sniffer. Bullshit. They just hadn't placed your gun yet. And so that takes care of where they're laser pointering the media focus, the attention for the public. Oh, look, we found a rifle. Look, we're looking for this guy. Never mind this person over here who has a backpack, who has a collapsible rifle. All right, so maybe that was their original plan. Have someone take a backpack with a collapsible rifle, but the guy that has the company with the product won't sell it to them. And so they have to pivot. And so they find Tyler because he's already got a rifle. And maybe that was their backup plan. And maybe that's why this looks kind of sloppy, because it is.
Be able to have an AR that they could keep in backpacks, deploy them if necessary, but that would be unassuming if you were in schools. This became his passion project, and he created this unique fold AR. So let's watch this fold AR in action. Okay. You get it. Do not go away, because we are going to take a brief break before I tell you this full story.
So imagine then that you have a guy on a roof somewhere who does pop out a backpack and does have a rifle like that, but it isn't Tyler Robinson. And so when they claim, hey, the timeline here, we've got a screwdriver, he took the gun apart, he stuffed it, then he brought it back out of his pants, or was it his backpack? We're not quite sure. You see how they're trying to take the story of what might have already happened on their perfect plan A, right? When they map it all out and they say, okay, we've got it, point by point, here's how it's going to go. And then the guy who has the product maybe doesn't actually give it to him. So they find someone else, or they develop their own, or whatever. They have CIA concoct their own, but they like the idea of having an AR that folds from the side, that maintains accuracy, and they have a little wrench factor, and okay, that they've dialed it in. They've got their version of that product now, because the guy said he wouldn't sell it to him, wouldn't give it to him. Okay, so they create their own. They still have to get Tyler Robinson into place and then make it appear as though he did those things. His rifle could not do that. So they say, well, he stuffed it down his pants and then maybe he put it in his backpack. It would be sticking out. You've seen the picture of the rifle. It's huge, long, and it sticks even in like a flower box, it would stick out. There is no way for him to have taken his rifle apart the way that you just saw them do that with this prototype device. The Fold AR.
Is going to be in first person, and he's presenting here just a timeline of the factual events regarding Victor Marx. Again, Erica's dear friend, right? Somebody you want to see immediately after at your home after Charlie Kirk's been assassinated. I would say that's a dear friend. He writes that on or about December 1st, 2023, at the request of Victor Marx, Melody, my then girlfriend, who earned her place as COO of Fold AR, and myself drove from Texas to Colorado Springs to provide a demo of the Fold AR to Mr. Marx. Melody had followed Mr. Marx on social media for many years and noted...
Pointing this out, not to interrupt Miss Owens, but pointing this out, it's a trafficker whose entire family is known for having killed people and their own family members, essentially like... Just what I read into that is that someone catches on to what you were up to, and then you take them out and yourself to tie up the loose ends because you're protecting your employer, who is the agency. This entire family screams Paddock family. You know, Stephen Paddock, the guy who they staged as the Las Vegas shooter when his brother said he couldn't have done it. We were all traffickers. He was a gun runner for the CIA. This Marx family is no different. Daddy was a runner. Grandpa was a runner. His brother's in prison, just out now for having been a runner as of 2003. They create a little side hustle, and now he's in Colorado Springs interviewing firearms manufacturers, and not just regular run-of-the-mill firearms, but tactical, covert, collapsible, hidden, secret black ops style, tactical weapons. And this guy, who is again, connected 6 ways from Sunday to trafficking, he's now asking about this gun.
That he was seeking the ultimate compact weapons system to use on quote unquote high risk missions. During our demo at his home base gun range, Mr. Marx approached me separately and asked if I would make a signature series rifle for him. He went on to tell me that he was exploring this as well with other much larger manufacturers, but that the Fold AR is, quote, the only one that makes sense. After the demo, Mr. and Mrs. Marx invited Melody and I into their house, and he proclaimed that he felt the hand of God on us and stated that he was told by God that an abundance was headed our way. During the living room meeting, Mrs. Marx identified a very unique connection between Melody and I, and she asked why we were not married. We responded that we would eventually get married, but that it was not a priority for either of us. From this point, Mr. and Mrs. Marx began asking personal and religious questions.
Of course.
The responses led into how the Fold AR came into existence, resulting in me explaining the story of how, at 16 years old, I was briefly falsely identified as a person of interest in the Columbine massacre in 1999 by certain investigative agents. Once this was revealed, Mr. and Mrs. Marx went into another room for a few minutes. When they returned, Mr. Marx stated, and Mrs. Marx affirmed, that she had had a dream and a vision the night before, that they would be a part of a greater mission to protect children. And with the revealing of this story, it became obvious that the mission would be to help us to get the Fold AR on the backs of school resource officers around the country. Melody and I were in agreement with the Marxist conclusion that God was doing something significant, as the coincidences were too powerful to ignore. Mr. Mark then performed what he described as a retooling prayer on both Melody and myself, which is a whole different topic, worth further discussion separately. Now, he did send that retooling prayer over to me, and I do want to let you know that Victor Marx is effectively what he does is he pretends that he is going to summon and then extract information from demons that are inside of you. Don't know how he became qualified to do that. He tells you that he needs you to kneel in a circle. He says the patterns actually parallel practices that are found in occult ritual frameworks. He then confronts the demons in these prayer setups, and he demands that the demons tell them the truth about what God is trying to tell the person. So he commands the demons to tell them what God wants. Wow, that gives demons a lot of power. The demons are telling you what God wants. Anyway, I digress. Following our initial meeting with the Marxes, we released the Victor Marx Signature Series rifle at the SHOT Show in 2024. The Marx participated in the release, attending our show booth for several hours each of the 4 days of the show. On January 24th, 2024, Mr. Marx married Melody and I in his hotel room with several of our industry friends present. Some months later, Mr. Marx went on Sebastian Gorka's America First show with Melody to discuss the Fold AR and Victor's mission to put a Fold AR on the back of every school resource officer in America. While their All Things Possible Ministries did purchase 5 Fold AR weapon systems for Lindale High School in Texas, no further participation from their ministries was ever made or offered without explanation. In the late fall of 2024, Mr. Marx flew into the airport in Henderson, Texas, to tour the Fold AR facilities. During this time, Mr. Marx stated to me that he needed 50 rifles for a mission to Haiti, where he would drop off and leave the firearms. I responded that it would constitute illegal exporting to do that, so I couldn't help him. And I advised him to not do it with any other firearms as well. I also asked him the question of what good dropping off a bunch of firearms would do in Haiti anyways.
And he smiled and said, depends on what good means.
With no material response offered by Mr. Marx. In October of 2024, Mr. Marx invited me again to his house in Colorado Springs, requesting that I bring a 1,000-yard capable rifle with a scope and a scope camera mounted. I then built the rifle and drove to his house to deliver it. Once I arrived, Mr. Marx explained that he was trying to protect an orphanage in Haiti and that the team was already packing their gear to leave shortly. This must be like Haitian angels or something. It's just a theme. Visions from God, godly visions. This is what God wants you to do in your life.
He's like, yeah, hey, your whole origin story is that you created this great weapon system after being wrongly accused of being a shooter in the Columbine shooting. That's crazy. So I know that you care a lot about children and schools and shootings. Okay, so hey, you know what we're going to do? We're trying to protect a school for shooting in Haiti, the orphan, the children. Come on. That's the come on, man. This is like a tactical backpack weapon. You wouldn't say, yeah, we're going to put it on the backpack. We're going to put it on the backs of the people running the orphanage in Haiti. We're going to drop it off with the orphanages so that the teachers who are running around with 50 kids at a time now also have a back-mounted gun. Because that makes sense. That's not what he's doing. We all know. Come on, you take 50 high-powered rifles strapped to a guy's back like that, you're going to take over an airport. You're going to do some kind of like weird localized terrorism, and it's probably not going to Haiti for an orphanage. Unless, again, you're going to hijack and take over the orphanage.
It's giving Erica Kirk. I got to say it. Giving Erica Kirk. And the angels, obviously. There's angels that are involved. So now he needs the guns for the angels. We'll read that last line. Once I arrived, Mr. Marx explained that he was trying to protect an orphanage in Haiti and that the team was already packing their gear to leave shortly thereafter. He stated to me that long-range rifle and camera would be used to blow the head off of someone if they attempted to scale the fence of the orphanage. Then the video would be used as propaganda to deter further attempts by gangs around the area. As I usually do, I questioned his strategy and its moral implications, offering a different solution, simply use a watermelon. I stated that I would not leave the rifle with him if he was going to kill some random person with it. He eventually responded in slightly but noticeably annoyed agreement. He then explained that his team was actually going to capture or execute Jimmy Barbecue, the top gang leader of Haiti at the time, assuming that this would be the last.
See, it's going to be a hit squad, right? They're maybe not going to take over an orphanage. That obviously was a little bit tongue in cheek, but that's not going to be protecting one either. It's for a squad of 50 dudes to go roll up on, and then he admits it, Jimmy Barbecue, the Haitian cannibal who's eating people's calves off. You know, you've seen the video, he's holding up a human calf, eating it like a dog bone.
That I would have to redirect Mr. Marx to the fleeting concept of what would Jesus do. I told him, why don't you just go have a meeting with the guy and talk? I then departed and left the long-range configured fold AR rifle with him. Now, I'll have you know that Victor Marx does make it to Haiti. Pause.
Wait, so he did leave the rifle with him? So Victor Marx has a 1,000-yard rifle with a scope and a camera? Interesting.
Here, so you can see a news clip. This meeting, going out to the orphanages, he was going to blow the head off of Jimmy. But this amazing thing happened. He actually was able to evangelize. It was an opportunity to evangelize some of these gangsters. Take a listen to this news clip on CBN News.
The FAA has banned U.S. flights to Haiti after 3 planes were hit by gunfire over Port-au-Prince this week. At the center of the chaos in Haiti's capital is the leader of a deadly group of gangs. After a visit from an American missionary, that gang leader is now pledging to protect orphanages and Christian workers. CBN's Chuck Holton has this exclusive report.
Port-au-Prince feels like a war zone. Gangs control the majority of the city and want more. Even so, missionary Victor Marx is still investing in ways to ease the suffering.
The reason I'm here in Haiti doing all this high-risk missionary stuff is a while back we responded to the urgent request of an orphanage that was under imminent threat of attack by many considered the most notorious gang in Haiti, the Mawaza 400. It broke my heart to think of the possibilities were if this gang attack to take control over that area.
While the orphanage was saved, a desperate population remains. Some say gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier is Haiti's most dangerous man. He faces sanctions from the U.S. and the United Nations. Entering his territory uninvited is all but suicidal. Yet when he offered an interview, Marx and his team quickly accepted.
He's truly fighting for reformation in some level of better equality, at least of opportunity. And he doesn't make himself out to be a saint, but yet, prayed with him. We got to pray with him. Hear his heart for vision.
Pray you fill him with your spirit, God. Give him new eyes and heart. Increase his capacity for love.
Insane.
That is just amazing. Isn't that? That's just a beautiful story. Beautiful, beautiful story. Anyway, let's fast forward to 2025, right? So they're in conversation about this company. Now, in the first quarter, and I'm again reading in first person here, in the first quarter of 2025, Mr. Marx had offered to help find an investor for Fold AR. After all, he knew that we were just barely skimping by financially, as there is not much margin and a lot of risk in manufacturing rifles with a very saturated and volatile market. So yeah, jumping into 2025, he and his wife are wanting to sell this company. They're cash strapped. They are willing to make this deal with Victor Marx on essentially 2 conditions. The first is that the guns are going to be used for school resource officers. They wanted school security to be the primary and permanent mission. The second is that they wanted to have enough money, if they agreed to sell the company, that would be enough money that they would no longer have to work. So those are pretty simple two conditions that they had. He tells us that as the stress of this had built up on my wife and I drove to Mr. Marx's house to discuss both personal and business-related matters. When I arrived late at night, Mr. Marx and his COO, Chaz Yandel, he goes to Haiti, by the way, met me at the hotel. They were both wearing bulletproof vests. We sat down in the dining area, and Mr. Marx stated that he intended to perform another retooling prayer on me. I politely rejected his offer, advising him that it would be akin to me making an idol of him, as continually seeking deliverance from man is man worship. He appeared to respect my rejection, although later he would reveal his underlying reaction. Mr. Yandel stayed at the hotel that night in a room down the hall from me. Mr. Marx had a bodyguard near me, and all were wearing bulletproof vests at all times. I thought nothing of it, as Mr. Marx represented to me that they were just breaking in the vests, and I proceeded to train his bodyguard on how to deploy the Fold AR. I spent 3 days with Mr. Marx where we discussed all sorts of topics, from biblical prophecy, end times, underground bunkers, marriage, salvation, and finding an investor for the business. As part of this, Mr. Marx revealed that he was discussing the acquisition with Sig Sauer and their top shooter, Daniel Horner, who Mr. Marx stated had received and tested the Fold AR and had given the thumbs up for Sig's involvement. He further stated that his accountants could only come up with a $2 million valuation, including the patent. Then he stated that he personally wanted to purchase 51% of the company. Now, while I did present some challenges to his proposal, I did not initially accept or reject it. I let him continue to try to sell his reasoning. At this point, I wanted to see where this plane would land. As he talked further, I suppose that he assumed that I was on board. As we were walking his track around his property discussing this, he then stated that the IDF needed my guns. I responded, "Oh yeah, that would be great. They have 3,700 schools." And I turned to him. As he stopped walking, he stated, "No, they need 50,000 guns for operations in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria." Being a person who usually avoids continuous eye contact, I dead stared him in the eyes, waiting for his response as he waited for mine. After telling his bodyguard,
Isn't that a great idea to have a bunch of deep cover IDF soldiers with backpack strapped rifles that you can't see are a rifle? It just looks like they're standing there until they pop the bag off and take it out and assemble it. Isn't that a great idea? Remember when they said they were Iranian sleeper cells here in America, ready to do damage? It kind of sounds a lot more like they're prepping the IDF to have their own cells. And it might not just be in Libya and Syria and Lebanon. It might be here.
To step back a few paces, his response to me was, "Do you know that I could whoop your ass right here and there's nothing that you could do about it?" I remained motionless, staring him in the eyes with no response while he was getting fidgety. After about 15 seconds, he starts walking again and he says, "That's why I'm never going to engage in scripture with you," which followed prior discussions where I had challenged his plans and his doctrine using scripture in the most respectful and tempered way. During that walk, I eventually reaffirmed to him that I would not be accepting an investor or a buyer who would not fully commit to the obvious mission of protecting children in schools. While at Mr. Marx's residence, he showed me a structure that was being built behind his house, which included a large underground bunker and a front-facing firearm port built into the concrete structure and an indoor shooting range. He stated that the intention of the complex would be used for spiritual retooling of traumatized officers who worked child sex trafficking cases in partnership with local, state, and federal agencies. And it was going to be exclusively funded by donors. Days after I left his residence, we continued our conversations in a different tone. He continued on telling me that there is no longer a need for Fold AR in schools. He cited some school shooting data statistics in error. I kept responding that despite any error in those stats, temporary statistics don't matter, while dormant sleeper cells are the issue. It eventually became clear to Mr. Marx that a deal was not going to happen.
Hang on. He says school shooters are a problem. Sleeper cells are an issue. This guy is talking to the guy who's trying to arm the sleeper cells, is what it sounds like. He's like, listen, I want to fix the school issue. I don't want to give a bunch of weapons out to people who will use them and hand them out to sleeper cells. And he's talking to the guy who's like, well, you just left me with one and I'm ordering 50,000 more. What do you fucking think they're for?
At the end, Mr. Marx asked me if we were still friends. I responded, yes, we can still be friends, but I no longer consider you mine or Melody's spiritual mentor, and I am requesting that you don't contact her anymore. You can discuss anything directly with me. That same day, Mr. Marx sent...
By the way, I was going to say it earlier, but I was trying to just be a little bit more respectful of the audience's wishes, but I'm just going to tell you what I'm thinking right now as I hear him say, why aren't you married to Melody yet? You guys should be married. And then he ends up marrying them as a pastor himself in a hotel room with just friends standing around. I think this Marx guy is imagining himself to be like a spiritual cult leader who wants to bang everyone's wife And so it's not fun for him if it's just like the girlfriend who runs the business with him. He's got to have them hitched. And now that Melody and this other guy are married, Colby, now he's going to be swooping in on his wife.
A group message to my wife and I, the couple that he had married just a year prior. And after a bunch of rambling about how much he's helped us, he stated that I am demonically influenced because I refused a retooling prayer. So what happens thereafter is he explains that he pursued his wife, and I'm talking about Victor Marx, and his wife and him are separated in this moment because he does not want to do a business deal. And I will say this is allegedly for the IDF to send 50,000 weapons overseas, but this has caused friction. And now I'm going to tell you guys about a mysterious transaction that took place in the midst of all of this.
Hang on, a pastor connected to TPUSA is also an agency gun runner and is trying to privately purchase weapons manufacturers here in the U.S. so that he can smuggle the IDF tactical weapons? Interesting, but we're not supposed to question TPUSA at all? Weird.
June 6th of 2024, Corby met with a buyer, a person who wanted to purchase just one of his fold ARs. And it was a Texas deputy, no less. And he purchased a fold AR with the serial number 02735. Fast forward about a month later, on the 4th of July in 2024, that Texas deputy contacted Corby, and he told him that the gun was stolen at a gas station in Midland, Texas. He said that he had accidentally left the car doors, the windows down, and someone grabbed the backpack with the fold AR inside of it. And that Texas deputy then claimed that he reported it to local Midland police, and that was it. No more follow-up. No one contacted Corby, nothing. Just a missing gun. We're going to fast forward again to September 10th, 2025, the morning of Charlie Kirk's assassination at 9:33 a.m. Central. So again, this is a full year and 2 months later after this gun went missing, and Corby receives an email from the ATF. They're conducting a trace on that exact gun. Now, you might be like me. You might not know what that means. What does an ATF trace on a gun? Why do they do that? What does it mean? Well, the ATF is, of course, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms and Explosives. They're got involved in this case quickly, as we know, came back with the inconclusive trace on the Tyler Robinson gun. And when they are doing a trace, when they email you and say that they are conducting a trace, what it means is that they are seeking to identify the first retail purchase of a firearm that they have determined is involved in a crime. So let me restate that to you. On the morning of Charlie's assassination, they reached out to Corby effectively saying, this gun is involved in a crime and you are the manufacturer and we'd like to know where you sent it. You have 24 hours to respond to these emails, by the way, as a gun manufacturer or a gun seller. Corby did, and mysteriously he heard nothing back. There was no follow-up. He felt very weird about it, given the eventual assassination of Charlie Kirk, everything that was surrounding the gun, no gun, magic bullets that went through. And so what he did was he decided to reach back out to the person he sold the gun to, the Texas deputy sheriff guy. And he picked up the phone and he said, no, ATF never contacted me, the person who the gun was sold to. The deputy also told him that he had checked some system that he has available and he has access to, and that...
So CIA tells Marx or someone in Midland, Texas, hey, we know that a sheriff bought one of these rifles. Hell, the sheriff may have even set it up to be stolen. Okay, but let's just assume that the sheriff is being totally up and up here. He just saw it, thought it was cool, bought one himself, and then did have it get stolen in Texas. It's possible. Someone steals a backpack. They get home. They think it's a gun. They're like, oh, no. Except for maybe it's stolen by someone who knows exactly what it is and is there to steal the backpack. And then the morning of the shooting, they call the manufacturer so that it appears as though that gun is off the books. It's off the table in terms of who could be questioning it and its location or disappearance at all. It's all very strange. It's as if the CIA said, we know that sheriff has a rifle that we want for an op, and we can't have a gun legit tied to us if we're going to use it on a black op. So let's steal one, right? The CIA goes and steals the sheriff's rifle. They can then use the gun. So it's odd that the ATF called the manufacturer and said, hey, we just want to make sure that you have paperwork on who you gave that rifle to. And then, we want to make sure that No one else has a trail on this rifle, but no one else knows where this rifle ended up or went. It's all very weird.
Gun is somehow not even reported as missing. Again, there's been no follow-up on that. And he forwarded me the email from the ATF. It is real. I have confirmed it. He is not making that up. It really happened. He forwarded me all of the evidence for everything that he is saying, the conversations that he has had. I believe him. I can tell you that. I believe his testimony of what happened to him, where his heart was when he created this Fold AR, and how people wanted to use this company. Telling him it's worth $2 million is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. I'm going to leave that there because there's a lot more investigating that needs to happen. I feel, just as Corby does, the timing of that ATF trace is indeed odd. It is precise, and I'm looking into just some things about where he sold the gun, and it's already quite interesting. Now, why am I telling you all this? Why am I sharing the story? Well, because they have spent months trying to dissuade you in this idea that something bigger could be going on, right? I've been telling you that something's not right, specifically with Turning Point Faith. Background, history, the Calvary Chapel, Rob McCoy type characters, their utterly bizarre commitment to Israel. Israel first and foremost and always. Their backgrounds, their shady backgrounds, their connections to the military. And now we have a stunning example before us, a person who is willing to testify about Victor Marx and his experience with Victor Marx and what was asked of him and what he declined to do for Israel. Allegedly, I will say. Our government, in case you didn't know this, has been implicated many times over in trafficking arms, doing arms deals overseas, the Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, arms deals to the Middle East in particular, getting these sorts of weapons in the arms of rebels, exactly like what he potentially wanted to do in Haiti. How do these militants get these sorts of weapons? You ever wonder that, where the weapons come from? And you should know that this stuff happens. It's real. When I was telling you about Angola Gate and they were trying to pretend that was so crazy, trafficking, global trafficking. Yeah, it's time for you to wake up to how the world really works. And recently, by the way, in case I'm saying this to further impress upon you how real this is, Trump accidentally admitted that we sent arms to protesters in Iran because that's our favorite move. Remember, they were saying it was a conspiracy. The Iranian government was saying these protesters are not real. They are working on behalf of Israel, and they are trying to, from the inside out, collapse our nation, essentially a color revolution, which we do all over the world. We've done it many times over. And then the government said, oh, no, this was just a normal uprising. This is how the people were feeling. Well, yeah, then Trump accidentally, and it was quite stunning, admitted to the fact that what was once deemed a conspiracy is a fact.
So are the Iranian sleeper cells that we are warned about by the IDF, are they the Iranian sleeper cells that we ourselves are creating in Iran? Hey, is it possible that that we are the boogeyman we claim everyone else is? Is that what we're hearing?
We armed protesters in Iran. Take a listen to what Trump said during the White House Easter celebration.
If they protest, if they go out in the streets, they will be immediately shot. If they don't have guns, we sent some guns, but the group that was supposed to give, which I said would happen to my people, I said it, I called it exactly. We sent guns, a lot of guns. They were supposed to go to the people so they could fight back against these thugs. You know what
We're going to send guns to the people of Iran. No. The people who are going to traffic them, they're going to rip us off and they're going to steal them. The guns we're going to send, they'll never reach the target that we're trying to reach them. We're trying to get them to. They'll never get to the people. They're going to get to the gangs who are holding the people hostage. That's how this works. No. Just toss a gun into the bank that's being surrounded by a bunch of gunmen, and it'll end up in a hostage's hand, and then they'll free everyone. No, you're just going to be giving them another gun. Hey, we threw a bunch of guns their way. What happened? Oh!
happened? The people that they sent them to kept them because they said, what a beautiful gun, I think I'll keep it. So I'm very upset with a certain group of people, and they're going to pay a big price for that.
Oh, I hope that is taken in an anti-Semitic way. A certain group of people. Let's hear that again.
I think I'll keep it. So I'm very upset with a certain group of people, and they're going to pay a big price for that. But the Iranian people will fight back as soon as they know they're not going to be shot, and as soon as they can get weapons.
Crazy.
Oh, could you imagine that another way? Could you imagine if Iran, the Iranian government, said, we had sent all of these guns to American protesters. We had sent all of these guns so they could have an uprising against their government. It's on camera. Like they just came right out. Right on the.
Yeah, if Iran was like, hey, we sent a bunch of guns to BLM and they didn't end up taking over Seattle and Portland and Chicago. What the hell? But that's what we are doing right now with another country, and we're acting like it's normal.
front line. And we're a little upset because I said it was going to happen. I said if we just try to get these arms over, someone was going to intervene and take all these guns and these weapons. Now I'm not happy about it. That was supposed to go to, the voters to have an uprising against their government. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Could you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot? Nothing they are telling us is real about what goes on in the Middle East. And now that Trump has made that admission, my question is how? What was the plan there? How do we do that when we are putting illegal arms, when we are arming people in another government?
And I will say this. I'm going to just play the devil's advocate for a moment here. Candace. Do you like Israel? Do you love Israel? Do you want them to win? Okay. Israel is saying we should send weapons to the enemy because the enemy might let your people have the weapons and then the people will help us. If we project that if all we do is arm the enemy and the enemy is the enemy of Israel, then maybe Trump is like, let's send them some guns. Let's send the IRGC a bunch of guns to hand out to the people. And then when Intel's like, sir, they're not going to hand them out. They're going to use them and possibly against Israel. He's like, oh no, send them again. Send more. I thought they might do that, but I sent them anyway. I said, take these guns, take them, give them to the people. I'm mad at a little group of people. I don't know. It just seems like Trump's not stupid. So if they tell him like, hey, sir, if you send a bunch of these weaponry, if you send weaponry to the enemy, they're just going to use it against Israel. He's like, oh, goody. I mean, oh, no, send it anyways. That's how this comes off to me. Maybe not. Let's see.
There's all these guns and these weapons. Now I'm not a color revolution.
We sent guns, a lot of guns. They were supposed to go to the people so they could fight back against these thugs. You know what happened? The people that they sent them to kept them because they said, what a beautiful gun. I think I'll keep it.
He's like, yeah. What a beautiful gun. I think I'll keep it. Yeah, the IRGC is like, yeah, we're going to use these rifles now. I hope you know that. And he's like, oh, no.
So I'm very upset with a certain group of people, and they're going to pay a big price for that. But the Iranian people...
Whole nations could all be involved in a trafficking ring. Because like I said at the top of the show, it's just not possible that everyone around Erica is so committed to trafficking charitably. Like rescuing people in high-risk situations. Victor Marx says he dealt with the Taliban.
It's just like Hillary Clinton. Erica Kirk is like a little Hillary Clinton. She's like, oh, I also am tied to a bunch of pastors and Mormons and people who on their resume, on their CV, they look like perfect little stunning saints. But then when you actually talk to them, like they have an indoor shooting range in their basement and they talk openly about how they're going to take people into their basement and retool them and retrain them and bring in officers who are damaged mentally and have them be, trained on. Or train on someone else in the basement, in the indoor shooting range where no one can hear you scream in Colorado Springs. It all starts to sound like, wait, what are we getting into? And he's like, you're married to that woman, right? You want to be married to her? I'll marry you guys right now because I'm way more into getting with someone's wife. Once I marry you guys up, then I'm going to separate you. That's Marx. That's what he did. And that's what a lot of people around Hillary Clinton did. This is like Arkansas now moved to Arizona.
With ISIS. So like the American government, is that what we're talking about? Is this like CIA contracting work? Was this what happens? Pay attention to this.
Yep, bingo.
Because I have said from the beginning, my sense is that Charlie was betrayed. I have been looking at this now for 7 months. And it is very obvious to me that these pastors who claim to be evangelizing, these people that work at Turning Point USA, well, I used to be an arms trafficker dealer, and then I found God. Wow, there's a lot of that going around here at Turning Point. Yeah, I used to do, and then I found God. What a perfect cover. A perfect cover to continually say that you are committed to God and you're committed to the Lord when you are committed to anything but. And then you tell people they're demonic if they question it.
While having a completely sinful and imperfect background. When they know, they're like, well, we can't cover up the shit you've done. So we're going to have to rewrite your character with some, cool turning of the page moment for you. And they're like, great. Yeah, perfect. I'm born again.
Well, I am happy to question every single thing that Turning Point USA is doing. what they have done, and how long it's been going on. Because my deep down suspicion, when I think of a timeline, 2018, is it's way too perfectly lines up with when Epstein went down. And it seems like there was this implosion all across the not-for-profit world. Like suddenly people just got into churches. That's my deep down suspicion, is that we are looking at maybe Epstein not having gone down, actually. Maybe Epstein just sort of reemerging, the Epstein world just reemerging somewhere else. Because you don't, something that global and that big doesn't just go down overnight. Doesn't just go down with one man. It gets a new.
Yeah, it's like you expose the problem in a glimpse, a little piece of it. You expose just a blip, and then you dilute it after you've normalized it. You've desensitized everyone to it in concentration. Now you normalize it, diffuse it, decentralize it, spread it out. Polygamy is wrong, but the Mormons are okay. Right? Weapons trafficking is wrong, but we need to arm the IDF. Killing people's wrong. I'm going to blow the head off anyone who sticks their neck over my fence over in Haiti. Torture is wrong. I've got a torture chamber in my basement. You see how these people, they'll say one thing but act another. And it is Epstein. That's the whole operation ongoing here through the Mormons. They're all trafficking. If it's not weapons, it's people. And they'll tell you, oh yeah, we traffic weapons or drugs, but the people is where the money is.
Head. That's what happens. So we're going to continue to prod this narrative, and I cannot even process people who are still out here pretending Erica is some perfect victim who just has all of the wrong friends. Stop doing that, because it's dumb, and it's dumb to be dumb. That's why you should stop doing that. We will take a quick break and be right back after. With scratchy throats and code Candace at checkout, feel overwhelmed. Smart way to get your American financing world. And we are not the good guys. We are not the good guys. Be very wary of these sorts of pastors, is what I would say. And Colorado, did I mention he's running for governor? He's got a very checkered background, admits to being brain damaged, and has been caught lying extensively. Kind of like Erica. Maybe he has a bad memory like Erica, but it's never a bar to entry. It's like they just welcome this at Turning Point USA. Like, oh, Greg Laurie, yeah, is accused of trafficking. Church, Harvest Church is being accused of trafficking people from Romania. Just incredible how this just keeps happening to the very godly woman that Charlie married. Isn't it just so weird? Just none of my friends, none of them could say that they have this many people around them.
I will say this, I hope to God nothing ever terrible or incriminating comes out, and I'm saying this sincerely. I hope and pray that Candace is as pure and sincere as she says and comes off and is seen to be. Because it would look really bad for the clippers and the memers in the future to see this image of her talking about everyone around Charlie who became a part of TPUSA and became super religious and had a turning point in their life. All of it's fake, and they're all connected to trafficking. They're all tied to evil, illicit criminality. It would be a bad thing for her to say all of that, given the fact that she has a very liberal background, worked with TPUSA after having her own turning point in her political, social, cultural understanding of life, has since become very religious. You see where I'm saying this? Like, I hope that she does not also fit the description perfectly that she is giving to everyone else surrounding them. I think that's a fair aside to make.
That have been accused of trafficking, whether it's arms, children. I just, 0% of my friends. Amazing. All right, top comments from yesterday's episode. Big Dog Sound 1 writes, leaving the Daily Wire is like leaving Scientology. I promise you it is so much worse than anything you have seen on TV. It's just like, no, way worse. Way worse. It is a beyond cult. Beyond cult is what I would say. And the way that I have just been trying to leave, like I told you, even what they tried to do to Brett Cooper, like you just can't, you're not allowed to leave. You just can't leave with your life intact. They're gonna have to destroy you. With us or you're against us. Well, I'm against you. I'm against Israel. I'm against everything they're doing. So at least I will die with my soul intact. That's what I would say. J-Dog writes, I was watching this at the gym. I look over and the girl on the treadmill next to me had it on too. I love this. I responded. I said, ask her on a date. What is the follow-up? J-Dog, got to ask her on a date, assuming you guys are both single. That would be such a great way to meet someone. We were both just watching the Candace Owens podcast on the treadmill, and we started a conversation. I love that. Okay, for today's episodes, oops, I have completely X'd out of this document. Let me read today's comments. Give me just 1 second. Oh, I'm like way X'd out here. Here we are. Nope. Again, in the wrong spot. Okay, I do not know why, but my entire thing just reset. What episode number are we right now? Yeah, it's weird. Just kind of went away. Let me try this. Yeah, you can do that. That works. Thank you. I'll just read them from the prompter.
I'm glad
Okay, I
to
think
know
I
I'm
actually
not
see
the
now.
only one having technical
It just popped up.
difficulties.
For some reason, I had to
today.
type it in manually. Okay. Comments from today's episode. BC writes, I practically broke my brain learning the ins and outs of the details of Russiagate to debunk and argue with the left about it. Now I wonder what the point was when Trump is now just doing everything that the Russiagator neocons wanted. That is the Russiagate thing was just completely ridiculous. I actually personally now view things in terms of theology. I'm like, yep, that's a Christian nation. It's a Christian nation. Stop trying to tell me that I should hate them when we are allied with Baal worshippers in the Middle East.
Correct.
Bitsy Figurina writes, I used to read the book of Revelation and wonder how it was possible that the Antichrist could deceive so many Christians despite openly mocking God and impersonating Christ. I don't wonder anymore. My loyalty is to the Lord Jesus Christ, not to any government. Exactly what I just said. And that's exactly what it should be. They've done such a good job of making us see, oh, you're this nation, so you should root for this team. And it's like, and we're rooting for Christians to be mass slaughtered everywhere. It's unbelievable. And there's just this recurring theme that Israel is behind it. And then they try to gaslight us and they try to call this anti-Semitism, even when you have people from Israel who are telling you that this is the circumstance. And they are suffering too, right? Compulsory to serve in the IDF, and people that are committing suicide when they come out because they are being sent to just mass murder children. I mean, it's unbelievable. People have testified who...
Wait, the IDF soldiers are also committing suicide in mass numbers? So I guess it's not all bad news then. Hey! That's terrible. I shouldn't have said that. That's wrong. But,
have testified to that effect of how it disturbs them mentally and how they hear the children screaming. It's unbelievable. Seven Sheets writes, nowhere else do you get this kind of journalism. Some others, of course, but I support it on Book Club. Chaos, amazing. A great follow-up is Weird Scenes in Canyon. I'm fascinated by the secret founding. That's what we're reading right now. Secret Founding of America. It is fascinating. God bless you and keep it coming in faith and prayer. Thank you so much. Son of a Guppy writes, just got home. Grab my phone. Candace is on. Shabbat Shalom. Man. Oh my gosh. Poor Charlie. Auntie Penelope writes, many of these born-again churches have people like this who backslide only to think that the Lord will forgive them over and over. They are the ones that scream the loudest about our Catholic priests, and I'm so tired of it. Yes, there is a theme that these people hate Catholics. They hate Catholics with everything in them. You could go find any one of these pastors talking about Catholicism in such a despicable way.
Yeah, they pretend to be them. You guys remember Jack Murphy, right? The guy with the gray beard and the weird rear door fetish. You guys remember Jack Murphy from years ago? Tim Pool spent a lot of time promoting him as like the new right-wing trad man, conservative guy. Jack Murphy. Real name John Goldberg or Goldman. Something insane. And he's, of course, completely anal retentive and obsessive with his rear door, as I said. All of that was exposed far too explicitly for your eyes on the internet years ago. So they've been always sending in a buff, Samson, sneaky-looking Jew into the conservative Catholic movement, pretending they've changed a name, and now he's an Irish Catholic. His last name is Murphy. No, I think it's John Goldman or John Goldberg. One of those. So you have to spot check that one. But Jack Murphy was like a character he played. It was as if you took Elliot Stabler and made him a bearded macho guy and then said, there you go. Go. And for a while, it was believable. He sold a book. He was on a bunch of podcasts. People thought he was a masculine dude until they saw him taking something into himself in a way that would surprise you.
And it is because their job is very, to use what we're going to be talking about in Book Club this week, Order of Zion, right? And we are supposed to be serving Israel, and we're supposed to be serving only whoever the leader of Israel is in the Likud party, the furthest to the right, which would be Bibi Netanyahu, and anybody that's in our way needs to go. And the Catholic Church has historically always stood in the way of this fringe Zionist belief that the world belongs to them and that they're chosen. And that has already been predetermined. So anything they do, no matter who they kill, lie to, screw over, it's all forgiven because they're chosen. Chosen by whom, I would wonder. Dan Sully writes, so grateful that you are leading the charge on exposing this blatant cover-up. Jimmy Dore reviewed your Trump response and loved it, as did I. God bless you, stay you, Christ is king. Love Jimmy Dore. Absolutely love his show. Neem writes, I have officially become the gay best friend that my wife always wanted. I just caught myself calling her to tell her the battle bun is engaged. She didn't respond, just made something like a female grunt and that she was God. That is hilarious. I love hearing that people watch the show together and friends watch together and people see it at the gym together. It's always a bright spot in my day. Wonder Woman writes, Marines only allow a minimum 4-year enlistment. 2 years is not possible. That stinks to high heaven. Why was he let go? Interesting. I didn't know that. I do not.
Maybe he wasn't let go. Maybe he's doing Marine intelligence work. She said he was in the Marines, left after 2 years, and then started a company, and 2 years later married the lady, the Second Step Ministries or whatever it was, Second Chance Ministries. Then he married his wife. So is it not possible that she's like a handler that was preordained and set in for him and that he's doing work in those 2 years? It's part of his Marine intelligence, if there ever was such a thing.
Know much about the military. And there was somebody who did a very deep dive on this just as we were preparing this. What is it? Corey, what is the last name? Kennedy? I feel it's Corey Kennedy. Cori Kennedy. And I'm not sure the background of this person, but similarly, this individual was already looking into Victor Marx, had been looking into Victor Marx for months actually, and has done a very good job on both X and on Facebook. Corey Kennedy has done a deep dive into Victor Marx. We don't possibly have the time to uncover all the things that he has said. A friend of his committed suicide, he was a teenager, and the cops brought him over and questioned him. They made him look at the brain splatter on the wall. I mean, it just never ends. And there have been interviews where people have very heavily suggested
again,
Victor
I
Marx is
pointed
just, in
out
fact,
earlier, and I'm going to highlight it again here now. When they say someone suicided themselves really close to them in their life, you have to wonder, you go, okay, did they do it? Or did someone stage it to look like they did it? Why did the cops bring him over, show him the scene, and then try to place him in it with splatter still all over and say, look at this, you tell us what happened? Unless they were 100% sure he did it and tried to stage it to look like his friend killed himself. This is a guy who just told you he committed his first murder at the age of 7.
A compulsive liar. Lies about everything. Lies about his life, his former life. So you could be onto something. I will leave that to the people that are in the military. But it is a 2-year service for sure. We did look into that, and hopefully there will be a lot more. I am planning on having Corby Hall on the show to further discuss the gun that mysteriously disappeared. I also will do my best to try to get something out to ATF. Maybe we'll get a response. I highly doubt it. It just tends to be the case. Anything involving the Charlie Kirk assassination, anything that could be adjacent. Again, we don't know if that gun has anything to do with it, but it sure is an interesting time. If we're going to disappear and for them to not hear anything back, what crime was it associated with, I guess, on September 10th? Wouldn't that be interesting to know what crime that gun was associated with on September 10th? I'd like to know. And we'll find out because we're nosy and we're not going away. We're going to continue to prod the narrative regarding what happened and what did not happen on September 10th. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Well, there you go. That was Candace's piece. Let's check back over to see if TPUSA is doing anything interesting. The lieutenant governor spoke for a while, and there was a big wait. They're probably all watching Candace to see what she was up to, right? Let's see. Live. Let's go. Let's see. Oh, they've covered a bunch of ground since. And now here's JD Vance. Started live an hour ago. Let's connect.
Do it.
I'm going to watch at speed here to cover some ground.
Thank you all. What a welcome.
Before we get going, I'll look at the chat and just catch up. Limited access over on Rumble. Inconclusive. Yeah, the rifle was inconclusive from the round that they said they pulled out of Charlie. If you were missing that, that's what that means. Say Candace is all about the money. Well, she certainly is already independently wealthy. If she was trying to just enjoy a wealthy lifestyle, she would not be doing what she's doing now. I think someone could say that Candace is like ego-driven, but she's certainly not money-driven. I don't think that at all. But all right, we're up to speed. If you're watching this now, hit the like button, share a link to the show. Follow on X at Tommy Borum Jokes. Simplest way to find me there, at Tommy Borum Jokes. It helps if you could follow, subscribe. It's like $2 a month there on the page. That keeps everything moving nice and easy. Here we go.
Hello, Athens. Yeah. I think that's their thing. I like that is definitely their thing. So I've been to 2 SEC schools with Turning Point US.
So the two people talking are Andrew Colvett and JD Vance, the two people who know exactly who killed Charlie and why they're not speaking up on it is why you should not trust them. Here we are. Let's watch.
And my Ohio State brethren are ashamed of me because I've given you guys way more love than my own alma mater, but it's pretty good to be in SEC country, I have to say. It's great to be here. We can help fix that. We can work on it.
Yeah, next week on the 21st, TPUSA does the exact same speech, but at OSU. And I don't think JD Vance is going to be at that one. Maybe he will be.
So for those of you wondering why I don't have really flowing long blonde hair right now, so I'm going to address it right at the front. Mr. Vice President, I'm on stage here instead of our friend Erica Kirk. That's right. Because unfortunately, she has received some very serious threats in her direction, which is terrible. It's a terrible reflection on the state of reality and the state of the country. But
what?
It underscores a larger point that she has received.
They're trying to create the fake threat on Erica Kirk's life moment. That's what they're doing right now. They're saying that she can't appear in front of the crowd, that he can appear at. Hang on. The security is so good at this event that JD Vance can appear at it, but Erica Kirk can't? That's bullshit if I ever heard it. That is an advertisement for her. They're trying to fluff her up and make her look good. Holy cow. They want to raise her profile and make her appear like this pure, innocent little saint that people just want to kill. That's not true at all. No one has threatened Erica. No one has threatened Erica except for maybe Israel. So it's really weird that we see Andrew Colvett and JD Vance going, yeah, so big shock here right off the top. Erica Kirk's not here. She's been threatened. We all believe that. That's why we're still sitting here. Really? It's a credible threat? It's a credible threat that she can't appear on stage? They're like, oh, no, we cannot have you go out there. There's a credible threat on your life. Wow, okay, so the president's going to be there. The vice president's going to be there. Andrew Colvett's going to be there. Everyone at this organization will be here. Not the president of the U.S., the president of the company. Why are these people on the stage if she's not safe enough to be? This makes no sense at all. Holy cow. Are we watching this? Are we all on the same page here? How is this real?
A lot of attacks from surprising places, perhaps. Tell us what you think about that.
Tell us about the places that are threatening Erica Kirk. Tell us that.
Threats in her direction, which is terrible. It's a terrible reflection on the state of reality and the state of the country. But it underscores a larger point that she has received a lot of attacks from surprising places, perhaps.
Which ones? Please tell us. Or which places are the surprising ones? I would love to know.
Tell us what you think about that. Some of the people that have made, part-time jobs out of attacking Erica, and this is the net result.
Sure. Well, first of all, I love Erica.
Attacking the federal bullshit narrative that is the Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a lone gunman named Tyler Robinson. That narrative is being attacked left, right, and center. Erica Kirk only catches flack when she stands in front and says, no, please believe it. I hope, I beg. She's not interested in finding out the truth about what happened to her husband because she's well aware. She is part of the problem, but she's not being attacked. She's certainly not being threatened, such that she can't appear for a conversation that she has herself sold tickets for. This is absurd, and he knows it. He's sitting here like, oh my God, am I really going to do this? Am I really a part of this here? I got to lie. I got to sell this lie. People are invested in finding the truth and solving, to the best of our ability, for the problems that exist in the current narrative. There are issues. There are discrepancies. We're trying to solve for those, in addition to looking at all the other evidence and information that the investigators are refusing to consider. It all stinks to high heaven, and people who look at it long enough go, oh my God, we figured out what's going on here. To some degree, we know the narrative is busted. And so they don't want you to consider that. They want you to think they're just attacking Erica Kirk. They're all jealous of her and they want a beer. And no one in the world believes that. So that's the discomfort on his face there as he's like, get ready to listen to this bullshit we sell ya.
And I know that she did get some threats. And, about 2 hours ago, as you know, Andrew, I was a little worried that we were going to have to cancel the event because Erica was not going to come and she was very worried about it. And I talked to the Secret Service, and obviously these guys do a very good job. And I said, you know what? Let's let Erica do what she needs to do for herself and her family. I'm sure Andrew will fill in. And
yeah, so she made the decision not to be there. It's not a security threat. She's insecure. Erica Kirk feels insecure, so she won't show up. That's what this is. And they're going to try to spin it and sell it and say, we really need to be with her and pray with her and think of her right now. She's a victim. She just balked on her own event because she knew that no one takes her seriously. No one believes she's credible. People hate her. She wonders how many of these people who were showing up to this event signed up on the website and got a ticket for free just so they could come and boo her and get in line for Q&A and ask really uncomfortable questions of the two of them on stage. Maybe she sees the memes and knows that people are not going to vote for her and JD in 2028, so she's already backing out. She's like, look, I don't want to be embarrassed any further. They're not eating it up. They're not buying it. They're not worshiping at my feet like you said they would, so I don't even want to go out on stage. And so they're selling it as she's been seriously attacked. Really? What happened? No, I mean threatened with an attack. Really? What's the credible threat? There isn't one technically. I mean, the Secret Service investigated and checked, and they were like, no, there's no real threat. There's no threat. But she doesn't feel secure. That's the verbiage they used. She doesn't feel secure. So we can't have it.
Let's let Erica do what she needs to do for herself and her family. I'm sure Andrew will fill in. And let's go and make this an amazing event with the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens, Georgia. So absolutely, we're going to do this thing.
She balked on her own event. Look at that. They have the photo of Charlie with his back turned. First of all, let's just take a little gander at the Do I have the thumbnail? Can I pull the thumbnail up? Here, I'm just gonna throw it up on the screen. Hold please. Let's check this out. So let's see here. You see this? Here's Charlie Kirk. He has his back turned. So they're behind him. And then you have the big red arrow planted into his back, right where you saw the t-shirt puff, where they had a line from the mic pack on his back running here. If I put my wire on my back like that, can you see that? Check this out. Flip the screen. Hey, I'm Charlie Kirk. I'm on that day. And you can see the wire. If you look at his shirt on the back, you can see a wire running up through his t-shirt like this, under the shirt. Some people thought it was a seam on the shirt. It's not. It's a wire taped up under his shirt on his back the day he was killed. And when his shirt pops, it goes out like that, right where that wire connects. It's very strange. Go check it out. Anyways, that's where that wire on his person connects, right where that arrow is pointing. It's a very strange graphic to have created with Erica and JD right behind Charlie Kirk's back as his back is turned with the blue arrow turning red and plunging into him right there. That's the graphic they created for this event. I'm just pointing out what it looks like. And you can say, that's wrong. That's not what it looks like to me. Well, that's what it is. So I'm just pointing it out. And now Erica is not there, will not show up, sees the memes yesterday and today going, I'm not going to vote for Erica and JD Vance in 2028, no matter what you do. And so she sees that. She goes, I'm not going out there then. Screw them. They're not buying it. They're not kissing my rings. Well, then I'm not showing up. Andrew, you go out there.
But look, I mean, in so many ways, you know, when did Charlie die? It was mid-September, I believe.
September 10th.
And
when did Charlie die? It was mid-September, I believe. What in the fuck? Dude.
In Georgia. So absolutely, we're going to do this thing.
I'm not being overly dramatic or emotional when I say that's fucking crazy. He's the vice president. He flew across the country to be a fake pallbearer for the casket that we think was probably empty, for the photo op, so that they could show on the tarmac, oh, hey, here's the vice president being the first one to help handle the body. Now he's going to tell you he didn't even remember it happening.
But look, I mean, in so many ways, you know, when did Charlie die? It was mid-September, I believe.
September 10th.
And in the past, that's right, it was the day right before September 11th. And in so many ways, the past 6 or so months have been two separate living hells for Erica Kirk. And the first is, of course, that she lost her husband. She lost the father of her children. And I'll never forget this because, I mean, frankly, I think a lot about it because my wife is now pregnant with our fourth baby, is when we went and picked up, thank you. But when we went and picked up Charlie's body in Utah, and of course you were there with us, and I met Erica, and I met the family. I mean, I met his parents and his little sister. And I just think about that moment and where she was so broken. And any of you know who anybody who's grieved before is you kind of go from just crestfallen and sad, and then you want to remember the person that you just lost, and there's just this constant flood of emotions, right? At one moment you're laughing about something they said 2 years ago, and at another moment you're sobbing because they're not there anymore. And I thought about that moment a lot because Erica told me, and that was the first time she'd ever told me this, and I guess I thought about it a lot in the context of our own, my wife's pregnancy. She said, I really wish that we had had more babies together. And that kind of hit me like, it's just it, he's gone. That was sort of one of the moments where I realized Charlie's not coming back here. And you have this mom who's really sad about the fact that
it wasn't in the meeting his family. It wasn't in seeing that he was shot and killed. It wasn't in talking to his surviving family members. None of that. That wasn't when you noticed that he was really gone. It was when Erica said, I wish we had had more fake kids together. I don't know if these two young kids are going to be memorable enough. We didn't actually take real photos of their faces for the media. So this story really hasn't been sold so far. It was written and created and drafted out to the public, and they're starting to read, manuscripts, but this is not a published work.
their two little kids may never have memories. I mean, you think about as a father, I know most of you out there are too young to have kids, but one of the things that you think about.
We have two little kids with no memories of their father, you mean? Of their father, you mean?
As a father is, I want my kids to remember this moment, right? I want my 6-year-old to remember when I took him to the zoo, or my 6-year-old son was just baptized on Easter Sunday, and I wanted to remember that moment with me, and thank you. But so Erica's struggling with this, and of course that's terrible, unspeakable. Most of us cannot even put ourselves in her shoes, while at the same time, she's trying to make sure that Charlie's legacy doesn't die. And in that context, everybody is attacking her over everything, and they're lying about her, and it's one of the most disgraceful things that I've ever seen in public.
We have not lied about Erica Kirk. We're not attacking her over Charlie's legacy. We're actually we're protecting and defending his legacy from being tainted and changed and edited posthumously by them. Erica Kirk has lied repeatedly. Pointing it out is not an attack on her. Just like pointing out a Talmudic teaching is not an attack on Jews. You see what I'm saying here? When they become exposed, they say they're attacked. They cry out as they hit you, but if you point out that they're hitting you, that's not allowed. You point out Erica groomed a young minor girl. They don't want you to point that out, so you say they're attacking Erica, despite the fact that she did indeed, a decade ago, at the age of 25, groom a 14-year-old girl. Sexually suggestive, grooming, disgusting, predatory messages to at least one that we know of, minor, underage girl, 14 then turned 15 years old while being pursued by the 25-year-old Erica Kirk. So while that's happened, Erica's not addressed that, not explained that. She just says, yeah, people are attacking me. They really hate me. And now we have the vice president running cover.
Public life. And I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in my life as a political leader, and I will tell you that the people who tell you, I was there with her, I was holding her hand, my wife was hugging her while we loaded Charlie's body onto Air Force Two.
Couldn't remember what day it happened, though. That wasn't an important thing.
And said the Lord's Prayer. The people telling you that Erica wasn't grieving her husband are full of shit. And we need to be honest about that fact.
No, Erica is full of shit. This is preposterous. And we called it out at the beginning. I said, look, he's going to lie to you. He's going to tell you a bunch of lies, and he knows it as he's sitting down like, get ready for this slop. He knows he's lying right here. People are full of shit for pointing out that Erica has lied, that Andrew Colvett has lied, that Tyler Boyer has lied.
Excuse my language. My wife says I got to work on my language. She's been telling me that for 12 years, and it still hasn't taken. But the thing is, look, when you become a public figure, the natural thing, and I've talked to Erica about this privately, is a ton of crazy people say a ton of things about you that simply aren't true. But the thing that makes it so egregious with Erica is that she's a grieving person who's trying to carry on her husband's legacy. And look, we all do things that are wrong. If you want to criticize...
That's such horse shit. Oh my God. Oh, she's a grieving person, so we have to not criticize when she lies. We have to let her get away with being, an accessory to murder because she knew the guy that she murdered. No one ever thinks that.
Turning Point USA for not taking this position or having this political disagreement, or maybe it should do this or that, that's all above board. But to say that Erica Kirk wasn't grieving her husband on that day, to say that Erica Kirk was somehow complicit in it is so preposterous and so disgusting. And it's one of the things that has broken, I think, the American...
I thought it was preposterous and disgusting when I heard that she was sending a 14-year-old girl sex messages. I thought that was preposterous and disgusting, and I thought for sure I'm seeing a crazy edit on a meme here that she didn't send that. Oh, wow, she did. Oh, wow, there's a whole thread of it. Oh, wow, there's a whole folder of things you could collect as evidence of this happening. Hey, if you actually search the person's handle, you'll find entire threads of conversations that the person is posting like, oh my God, look what Erica Kirk sent to me today, only her name was Franzfey at the time. Tagged at Erica Franzfey. Why is she saying this to me? Oh my gosh, she wants to be in my lady garden? She's going to put what in my what? At a 14-year-old age, and a 15-year-old girl is being sent this by Erica Kirk? Erica Kirk tells this minor who she meets through another young adult who meets this girl at an abandoned or empty home that they're house sitting in on, but it's really a place they go to hang out. And these adults come over. One man who's a photographer, and then a woman who says, I could make you a model. How old are you, girl? You're 14? Oh, wow, I love Latinas. They're so hot. Disgusting, but that's what she did. And we're supposed to not really care that Erica Kirk did that. Groomed and sexually trafficked this girl. And by the way, the girl herself claims, yeah, I was being groomed by Erica. No, I did not know that then. Yes, obviously I see that now. You can't point that out because the vice president says, no, those are vicious lies about Erica. No. She's an Air Force Academy board member. They're trying to launder her as much credibility as possible while claiming you can't criticize her because her husband was killed. No one's buying it.
In public conversation over the last 6 months, I mean, Andrew, we could talk about this for a long time. Charlie's absence, I felt it so many times in so many different ways. There have been so many times where I wanted to call Charlie and say, man, you've got to call this person, or man, you've got to put this event together so we can help this candidate, or just to bounce ideas off of as a friend. There have been so many ways in which I felt that void. But one of the ways in which I felt that void is that it's like the response to Charlie Kirk dying. The response to Charlie Kirk getting assassinated.
I don't want to keep pausing it, but just hear what he just said. Since Charlie Kirk has died, he doesn't remember the day, but in the last 6 months, there have been so many instances where he would have had to call Charlie to get something done, where now he doesn't. He would have thrown an event together, or supported a certain candidate, or done all these things through Charlie. Now he doesn't have to make that call. Do you see how they can kind of coalesce power and aggregate the influence? Charlie had a ton of influence, but they had to call him and convince him to wield it. Now they don't have to do that. Now they just have it themselves. They've taken it in-house.
Fascinated by a left-wing furry lover is the response should have been, let's go after left-wing violence and terrorism. Let's defund the networks of left-wing violence and terrorism. That's what we've been doing in Washington, D.C., and that's what we've been fighting for every single day. You know, Savannah Hernandez.
That was the impact they wanted to have. They were desperate to have. That's why they told you that story. They were hoping that narrative would swing you in that direction, and it didn't take. And he's mad about that. He's mad that people are investigating and questioning Erica Kirk's statements and the evidence surrounding Charlie Kirk's death that points to a covered-up assassination conspiracy. He doesn't want to talk about that, so he says, Andrew, look, we could talk about that for hours. But instead, let's just pivot back to the fact that everyone misses Charlie. Can we all agree? And I used to have to call him a lot. Now I don't. And now, if you haven't noticed, his legacy is being attacked because people realize it was empty. It was a charade. It was an organization that we used to buy debt, refinance people's debt, accumulate wealth, and then back certain candidates for certain races. We'd put together an event and call it a grassroots effort.
Of course, was assaulted in Minnesota a couple days ago. I talked to Kash Patel on the way down here, and I said, I assume that we're doing something here. And he said, yes, we've had multiple agents on the ground. We've already talked to Savannah. We're going to use the video to try to go after the people who assaulted her and then try to defund the networks that fund those radicals who are going around assaulting activists. That's what we should be doing.
So the FBI does know how to investigate a criminal network. They just know that they want to protect them instead of actually expose them. They can use the people in the network and make them work as their own instead of take them out. I mean, if you're playing chess, but you can control every other one of your opponent's moves, wouldn't you have a much easier time winning? If every other move of your opponent you seem to hijack and brainworm them, and every other one of their turns you get to make the move? Because that's what the FBI is doing. They're saying they're going after the criminal networks, but really all they're doing is infiltrating them and then cornering them, leveraging them, saying, now listen, you work for us now. And then making them a pastor, allowing them to run some guns, allowing them to torture some people. Hell, build a compound, do whatever you want, own Colorado Springs. But when we call on you, you're going to traffic guns to the IDF, you're going to help kill Charlie Kirk, you're going to do all these things because we own you. That's the way the United States works. That's why Iran says death to America, because they mean death to that system. They're referring to death to the Epstein class of blackmail is the grease for all inner workings of politics and social cultural ongoings. Thank you.
And I know that politics is hard, and I know that it's challenging, and I know that things aren't always easy, and we're going to have disagreements even within our coalition. But if you're going after Erica Kirk and not the people who are trying to destroy the United States of America, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. Yeah.
How about we're going after the people who destroyed Charlie Kirk? And she's not. And that's strange. And we all should be asking why.
Amen. You know, I think that's really well said, Mr. Vice President. And I always try and remember that Erica has to live with this constant reality that her kids are one parent away from being orphans. And so we take that extremely seriously. And as you mentioned, what happened with Savannah, and I think it's just important that we remember that we're dealing with humans. These are human beings. Exactly. And I've heard some people say, well,
I'm going to tell you right now, I would not be surprised, and you can clip it, you can post it, you can sit on this for 6 months. I would not be surprised if they end up writing into the script here after I heard that comment. Oh, you know, they're one heartbeat away from being orphans now. Those two kids are just one heartbeat away from being orphans. It's a strange thing to prime the public with at your own event when you just told us that she was threatened and the vice president kind of just confirmed she wasn't actually. She feels insecure. The narrative's not being bought. No one's believing the story, so they're pivoting. They're now saying she's not safe. She's insecure. You know, these kids are just a second away from being orphans at any moment. Are they going to write Erica Kirk out because they need the sympathy and it would be better for the narrative if they had her be next and then they can say, oh, someone just, they kept attacking. It's all Candace's fault. Because no one's believing the character they're trying to have her step into. The Air Force Board thing is not going to cut it. She's not credible and people hate her. The more they try to force her into the public, the more pushback she's going to get. So instead of seeing this as an uphill Sisyphusian battle, maybe they just say, let the boulder roll. Let her go. Let's cut her off. Is that what they're going to do? Because this seems to prime my brain to think like, uh-oh, what are they getting us ready for? They just pulled the plug on her at her event, still had the event, put the vice president on the stage, but not her. That's an emotional move. That's not a real threat. And then he keeps saying, yeah, they keep attacking her. And hey, those kids are 1 second away from being orphans. That's weird. You don't say that. That's weird as hell. Unless you want us to all think she's going to be killed. And that's what makes me think they might be scripting that next.
Well, Erica was smiling 2 days after Charlie Kirk died or something like that. And it's like most of us in this room have grieved somebody that we loved. Maybe hopefully not a spouse who dies in the prime of their life, but when you deal with somebody who's grieving, it's always this weird combination of emotions. It's intense sadness, intense affection. It's, you sort of love that person in that moment, maybe more than you ever have because you feel their absence. You think about all the happy moments that you had and you can't help but smile. And then you remember they're not there and you can't help but sob. That's what grief is like. And so again, if your instinct is to go after not the left-wing radicals who are assaulting Savannah, or not the people who shot Charlie Kirk, but if your instinct is to go after a young mother because she's grieving in a way that you find you find wrong, well, why don't you stay in your lane and mind your own business? Yeah, amen. Grief.
Wait, so you can follow your instinct if they have tricked your instincts into posting viciously about Tyler Robinson, if your instinct is to just defend Erica, if your instinct is to think it's left versus right, if your instinct is to just become tribal, then follow your instinct, he says. But if your gut instinct, if your intuition is telling you that she's acting funny, she's not acting like a grieving widow, she's not behaving like I would expect, she's an attention-seeking whore, she's ego-driven, look at her out there in the spotlight. If that's what your instinct says, then shame on you, mind your own business. What? Listen, did he just say that? He did.
Complicated. You find wrong. Well, why don't you stay in your lane and mind your own business? Yeah, amen. Grief is complicated,
okay? If you support her, we'll take your support. Your intuition is spot on. You follow your gut. He was shot by a leftist. You should hate the left. Give us your money. But if you don't, if your instincts don't say that, shame on you.
In a way that you find you find wrong, well, why don't you stay in your lane and mind your own business? Yeah, amen.
My lane is wherever the truth leads me, motherfucker. So if the truth were to me that he really did get shot and I felt super sad for Erica and I thought, oh my God, she is a grieving widow, how terrible, then yeah, that's exactly where I'd be. But notice that's not where people's intuition has led them. And so then now you're telling them, shut it down. Shut it down. Oy vey, the Goyim have noticed. Shut it down.
Savannah. Or not the people who shot Charlie Kirk, but if your instinct is to go after a young mother because she's grieving in a way that you find you find wrong, well, why don't you stay in your lane and mind your own business? Yeah, amen.
It's okay to not mind your own business and get out of your lane and start getting politically tribal if it serves our narrative. But if it doesn't, if you start to veer off of that path we've laid out for you, then fuck you, mind your own business.
You think about all the happy moments that you had and you can't help but smile, and then you remember they're not there and you can't help but sob. That's what grief is like. And so, again, if your instinct is to go after not the left-wing radicals who are assaulting Savannah, or not the people who shot Charlie Kirk, but if your instinct is...
Those would be the good instincts. That's what he just told you.
After not the left-wing radicals who are assaulting Savannah.
Go after the left wing.
And so, again, if your instinct is to go after not the left-wing radicals who are assaulting Savannah, or not the people who shot Charlie Kirk, but if your instinct is to go after a young mother because she's grieving in a way that you find you find wrong, well, why don't you stay in your lane and mind your own business? Yeah, amen. Grief is complicated, so there's another angle of this, Andrew, which is just so absurd, which is that, people will say that
you're allowed to feel instinctively the way that we have tried to program you. But if you notice the programming and you start to not feel that way, shame on you. Stop feeling things. That's what he just said. What an insane thing.
Erica, she's been doing this or she's been doing that, and I would be doing something different. And it's like, first of all, that's fine. Like, if you want to criticize somebody because you have a disagreement, disagree with my politics, disagree with something that Erica or Andrew say on the Turning Point podcast, but this desire to go after her for the way she's grieving her husband, that's the most preposterous thing I've seen in a very long time. And I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in politics.
Amen. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Vice President. So I think this segues very well into our next question here. You are a practicing Catholic. You're, despite your language, you're attempting to be a faithful Catholic.
That's right.
I think it was well placed, if
Thank you.
I may say.
It.
I'm sure you've seen that the Vatican and the Pope and the President have been in the news
yes.
lately. So as a Catholic, what does it feel like to be in the middle of that?
I thought it was going to be an easy question. This is kind of a tough question here.
Nope, no easy ones.
So here's the thing about this. So first of all,
yeah, sorry if I don't take the rest of my Catholic teachings from Pontiff JD. I'm sorry if Bishop Vance isn't the guy I'm going to get my info from. There's a lot more to look at there. While I'm all fired up about the whole Tyler Robinson thing, though, let's just look at a couple things, shall we? Let's just look at a few points. Can we? Can we look? I've simplified it here so that you may see on your end what exactly I'm pointing out. But if you want to, you can see this on your own. You can search for on Google or Bing or wherever else, and you will find, as a result, if you search for Tyler Robinson affidavit of probable cause, you will find this document. It is a public record. This says in the county of Utah, state of Utah. I think it's supposed to be Washington County. Here is the affidavit of probable cause for the arrestee, Tyler James Robinson. They have his birthday. They have all of his information. Okay. So we have the full document. Here is the officer. We'll see the name. Here is Brian Davis, the Attorney General for the Utah County Sheriff's Office. That is the person writing this officially. Submitting the affidavit is the Attorney General for Utah. There's the full document. We can go through it in a second. And we also have the text messages from Robinson, supposedly, allegedly, to the roommate that were never produced by the data company. They were never produced by a wireless communications network. They were never produced by T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T. No company gave these over after a subpoena was filed. There were a series of screenshots taken of messages that were alleged to be in a conversation. The screenshots show these texts back and forth. The labels are all in the screenshot. So imagine this, the sheriff who sees these messages from the roommate, Lance Twiggs, he doesn't see the actual messages and scroll through them and take screenshots himself and have the screenshots sent to him. The kid pulls up screenshots and flips through them on his phone. He doesn't even see the conversation. So you can imagine how long it would take someone to just fudge some screenshots of a conversation that never happened. And then the cop says, well, I don't have the conversation. I just have my photo of the phone that I looked at it on. I have the image, date, and time taken of when I took the photo. Can we use that? You can see how they're trying to bury the reality of the fact that this evidence is not real. It's been forged. It's fake. So they can't have you look at the evidence. They want you to look at a picture of it. And then say, well, the picture's real. This is a real, legitimate picture of a fake conversation that didn't actually take place. What device sent that first note from Robinson? What device sent it? Was it the keyboard that he was typing on, or was it his phone? Does anyone know? Does anyone want to prove it? The state does not want you to ask. The state says, we're just using pictures of that conversation that the sheriff took. Okay. You don't believe me? Go pull up the affidavit and read it and see exactly what it is they're saying they're using for evidence to initiate investigation and charges to begin with. Once they have the charges and can allocate resources to investigation and further creating their case, then they can pick and choose cherry-picking data to use against him. You understand? So like this is not their whole case, and they don't have to use everything in the affidavit. They can just say, well, this is what we had to go on to begin with. And you're going to see why they don't want to use this information in court. They don't want to pull the data forensically that shows where the messages were sent from and who sent them. They don't want to show you that. Okay. So I posted this. Literally everything in that affidavit is hearsay evidence and doctored messages, creating the appearance of incriminating Tyler Robinson as if he had confessed. He's never confessed. He's never told anyone that he was the one that pulled the trigger that killed Charlie. That's not ever what he said. He's never said that. The news told you that he did because they wanted you to write him off. This is shameful, and it's happening in the United States. I don't know why. I can't figure out the pop. It's just going to keep popping. I don't know why. It shouldn't, but it is. So that's just what I have to deal with. Sorry about that. This says, on the evening of September 11, 2025, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who then contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office. This is a fact statement that you can't prove. This is someone else's quote you're including as a fact. The fact statement would read, Washington County Sheriff's Office received a call from an individual claiming to be a family friend of the shooter. That would be how they'd present the fact. You'd go, wait, the sheriff got a call from someone who said, hey, I know the family. They just called me and said he done did it. Go get him. Do you see how that doesn't play? If you or I were being targeted, say that I'm live streaming right now. Perfect example. Someone could swap me. If they had my full legal name and address, they could call the local police department and falsely claim that someone was being held here with a gun against his head live streaming to an audience of only 100 people. They could claim that just to have the SWAT team sent here. And then they'd kick in the door and hold me, and then they'd make sure that it was all not happening, and then they'd go away. And that is the weaponization of it. So imagine then that Tyler Robinson's information is being handed over to law enforcement by his roommate, Lance, and maybe he never reached out to the roommate at all. Maybe the roommate just concocted a backstory, has this conversation that he's created himself right there on the spot, and then goes to the cops and says, it's that guy right there. I'll just give you his name and I'll tell you who it is. Go get him. And so the police go, oh, that's interesting. Now we have a name. And now the sheriff receives a call from a family friend and he says, hey, I'm at a payphone here, and I know the Robinson family pretty doggone well, and they just called me and told me that it was their kid. You should go get him. It's a great way for the sheriff to then go, all right, we have multiple reasons to believe it's that kid. Let's go get him. And their plan when they went to go get him would be to kill him so that they can say, we have all the evidence that points to him being him. He was the killer. And we tried to take him in, and he was armed and dangerous, and he'd left one gun behind. He was out trying to get another gun because he was going to kill himself because we had him cornered. And then they kill him. That's what they wanted. And instead, he goes to his family. His family walks him in on camera to put him into custody of the police so that they could begin his defense. While he tells them, I'm being set up. I'm a patsy. Someone has my gun. Someone else told me to be here. Where I shot my mouth off online. I said I'd be part of a thing. They're going to now say I did it. I couldn't have done it. I wasn't there. They tried to put me in the place at the right time. The sheriff can't have that. The FBI can't have all that. He's the patsy. He's the guy that they need to have be a loose end that they tie up so no one asks any questions. They can't have him speaking in his own defense. So forget the fact that he had been Mirandized and is sitting in a jail cell when they say the Discord messages were sent. This is what the affidavit reads. On the evening of September 11, 2025, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend, who then contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information. It's a game of telephone. It's really convenient because it's like when CNN says, yeah, an anonymous source reached out and confirmed it was him. Now we're going to publish it as a fact. The sheriff's office is saying a family friend reached out to us and confirmed that he confessed. So to us, we're taking it as a confession. That's enough probable cause for us to go wheels up, lights and sirens, guns ready to go take him out. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and crime scene investigators at UVU. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. So everyone at all levels was made aware. We've got our guy. We have the kid who's right now squealing and telling people that he knows he's the patsy. He knows he's the target. He's self-identifying. And if we play it right, we can go get him. But there he turns himself in. After he's in custody, allegedly, these messages are sent. It seems odd. Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. When the roommate then looked under the keyboard, there was a note that allegedly, why is it allegedly? Well, because the note's it's gone. It's been destroyed. So charge the roommate with destruction of evidence, right? Unless it's just part of a story that isn't actually true, but it creates the plausible deniability of there ever having been evidence. If I say to you, evidence used to exist, but now it doesn't, you can use my story as a piece of evidence, but only to reflect the evidence that doesn't actually exist. And in some courts, they'll say that that's real. The jury can hear that someone claimed that evidence existed. And so in their mind, they might believe it, even though there is no proof it ever actually did. The roommate says, "What? You're joking." Robinson's account, we're told. "I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you." This all rings as completely hollow and untrue. You weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. Nope, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. How would you know that? I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah. I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got back to my vehicle. I'm worried about what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints I had to leave in a bush. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. I didn't have the ability or time to bring it with me. Well, then how'd you have the ability to bring it in the first place? I don't believe he did. And I don't believe these messages are actually him. I believe they're scripting it out after having already collected the rifle, having had him in the right place at the right time on camera to be clicked, seen. Now send it to the news, tell him he did it, put his name out there. While he's trying to run, essentially, and figure out what to do, oh my God, they've just set me up to have been the murderer when all I did was let someone borrow my gun. That's my theory. I think that they earlier in the week collected his rifle, then staged it to be found, and that none of this conversation is real. I think all of this conversation was helped to be written by law enforcement and the kid who they're claiming is completely innocent in it. Because how else do you say, my side of the conversation, completely absolving me of guilt, is, I thought they caught the other person. You didn't do it, right? Suggesting that he had no idea. I don't know anything about this. I'm not related at all. You didn't do it, right? You did? Oh, why? Tell me more. I'm just an outcry witness. Legally speaking, I'm not a co-conspirator. I didn't help set up my roommate / ex-scorned lover as being a real shooter when he is not. My fake CIA given name is Lance Twiggs. I'm just an outcry witness. I'm going to help create this leading conversation. Remember, Tyler Robinson is supposed to be 3.5 hours away from his home, sending these messages on his Discord that is connected to his PC. He could be on his phone, but I think he's also maybe on his computer. And so the odds of Lance Twiggs having access to send both sides of this conversation is as plausible as him actually having had it for real with Robinson. Lance Twiggs could just be sitting at his computer, again, saying, I'm sending as Robinson, and now I'm sending on the other PC as me. And now I say as me, how did you do it? And now I say as Robinson, here I am. While Robinson himself is actually visiting a Dairy Queen somewhere, none the wiser. He was told that the guy borrowing his gun couldn't meet him, and now they had to scramble. Just go lay low. Go to McDonald's. Go hang out. Go sit somewhere while we message you about where we're going to be with your rifle to meet us, and go hand it back off to you. The real Robinson thinks he's still trying to meet up with an agent somewhere to recollect his gun, and the fake Robinson messages are being sent like this. Yeah, I wrapped my gun in a towel and I dropped it right there at the feet of the FBI. I hope they don't find it. None of this rings true or sincere to me at all. Then he says, please don't talk to the media. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Oh yeah, roommate then. So as the public reading this, we're supposed to think Robinson believed his roommate was innocent. So we're supposed to assume that too. But this isn't a real conversation. This is fake, and you're supposed to believe the lie. The proof of this is self-evident. If you look at them, you go, okay, well, this doesn't actually jive. This does not jibe with the affidavit. The timeline's off. The days don't match. The messages don't actually appear to be in a Discord server. Discord said that contemporaneously. And then they've come out and said, oh, no, sorry, those were text messages. Okay, well, then get them from the wireless provider. Get the messages from the wireless provider and prove that they were actually sent. Show us the chain of custody. Show us the IP address. Show us the time stamp on the data being sent across the internet for that message to have appeared on his device from over there. Show us that. And they go, actually, we don't have that. You have conversations, right? No. You have the screenshots of the conversations? No. What do you have? We have a photo taken on the sheriff's phone of the device pulled up to the screenshot showing Tyler's name on it. Holy shit, that's what they have. That's what they're working with. That's what they're using. Okay, before I let all of you go, I want to show you this. We're going to listen to this. And again, we're going to listen to it at speed, so you don't have to sit through for the next hour. Hold out hope, okay? There's still hope to be had, even if it's 1%. Hold it out. I'm going to fix my mic so that we don't have this crackly issue, because I freaking cannot stand it. I don't pay hundreds of dollars to have software and hardware issues. Okay, so this is annoying to me as it is to you. Listen to this. Tell me if it makes any sense to you in the chat while you hit the like button, share a link to the show, subscribe, follow, do all the things. My profile at Tommy Borum Jokes on X is the place to find all of the hard-hitting analysis, key points of info that you may not see anywhere else, and you certainly won't see them connected in such an intelligent way before all things happen. They happen on my profile at Tommy Borum Jokes, so check that out and listen to this, and you tell me if this makes any sense. For the record, I saved this so that we could all listen to it. I did not listen to this preemptively. I thought I like the source. I like the poster. We've met. We've had conversations. We agree on a lot of things. I understand cloak and dagger methods. I understand double crosses. I get how the clandestine operations can be ongoing and not have you believe in them. And that's part of the trick at the end, is that you have to lose hope and all eyes leave the focus of attention. If a message has to be completely lost for it to actually work, or I'll put it another way. If the only way for the secret agent to actually get in and complete his mission is for everyone else to no longer believe he's even alive, then I guess we have to lose hope in him being alive, right? Do you understand the metaphor I'm getting at, the analogy I'm using there? I don't know if we should have hope in there being a plot to save America or not. I think trusting the plan at this point is silly, because trusting implies that you're not going to do any work yourself. You're just putting faith in something else and letting it run. I don't want that. I want citizen action and guided responses. We do the guiding. The response is by our elected government. And I have to wonder if, I said it 2 hours ago, if Trump going to war with Iran, if that's bad for Israel, is it really that terrible that we would see it happen in our lifetime? If the result is Iran is flattening Israel, is it a terrible thing to see the action is Trump breaking a campaign promise? He made a bunch of campaign promises so that Israel would let him into office. If he breaks a couple of those promises, is it so bad? Trump was told, don't send those weapons to Iran because they won't get into the hands of our people. They're going to get into the hands of the Iranians, and then they're going to attack Israel with it. And what did he do? He sent them. So I look at the results of the actions, not just the actions, okay? Check this out. Let me know what your thoughts are.
The invisible enemy.
Whoa.
A war with no sides. The world is not how you view it. Israel armed the enemy it now fights. The real reason for America's strikes is bigger than you can imagine. For decades, a clear blueprint has guided Israel's approach to the Middle East. The creation of a dominant Jewish state encompassing vastly expanded territory, referred to as Greater Israel, by weakening, fragmenting, and neutralizing surrounding Arab states. This vision is not fringe speculation. It is articulated in explicit policy documents and public revelations spanning from the 1980s to the post-9/11 era. The foundational text is Oded Yinon's 1982 article, A Strategy for Israel in the 1980s. Yinon, a former Israeli foreign ministry official, argued that Israel's survival required the dissolution of existing Arab states into smaller, ethnically, and religiously divided husks of their former nations. He described Egypt as a corpse to be dismembered, Jordan as ripe for Palestinian takeover, Iraq as a prime target for internal religious and tribal fragmentation.
I'm listening along. I'm just going to jump off the screen really quick because I'm going to jump off the screen real quick while the dog is at my feet and needs to go out. And it's been a few hours. So I'm going to go let her out, throw a headset on, walk around and listen to this with you. Not going anywhere. If you do have to run, though, hit the like button, share a link, subscribe. This is the last thing we're covering, and it'll be for the next, 40-something minutes. Oh, you know what? I need to speed this up a bit.
Fragmentation for fomenting division and hostility among Shiite, Sunni, and Kurdish groups, Syria as vulnerable to ethnic breakup, and Lebanon already in chaos as a model to be followed. The goal was to transform the region into a collection of weak mini-states unable to challenge Israel, allowing it to emerge as the unchallenged regional superpower with new borders from the Nile to the Euphrates. This line of thinking was formalized for Benjamin Netanyahu in 1996 with the policy paper, A Clean Break, A New Strategy for Securing the Realm, drafted by a study group led by Jewish American neocons like Richard Pearl, Douglas Feith, David Wormser, and others with the Project for the New American Century, BNAC. Think about that for a moment. American government officials from the Bush administration writing policy for an Israeli prime minister. Ask yourself, where does their loyalty belong? And who were they really working for? America or Israel? Written for Netanyahu as he assumed office, the report urged Israel to abandon the Oslo peace process, reject land for peace formulas, and instead pursue aggressive regime change policies against hostile neighbors, starting with Syria and Iraq, while cultivating alliances with Jordan and Turkey. It emphasized preemptive military action and leveraging U.S. support to reshape the region in Israel's favor. 4 years later, in September 2000, the same PNAC network produced a second major policy document titled Rebuilding America's Defenses, Strategy, Forces, and Resources for a New Century. This report advocated for sustained American global military dominance with emphasis on expanding a long-term U.S. force posture in the Middle East. It called for a broad revolution in military affairs where they blatantly said, quote,
"The process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor."
Take a moment to consider the chronology here. Both of these foundational papers, the 1996 A Clean Break Strategy, written directly for Netanyahu, and the 2000 Rebuilding America's Defenses report, were produced before the attacks of September 11. The entire sequence of wars, beginning with Iraq, had already been written on paper years earlier. The same group of neocons then followed up the year before 9/11 with a call for a profound and revolutionary transformation of U.S. military posture in the Middle East, ostensibly fighting Israel's enemies for them. A transformation they noted would likely proceed slowly unless accelerated by a major catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. The Iraq War and the wars that followed were already planned before 9/11. The implications and connections outlined above extend far deeper than the scope of this article permits. But if you wish to pursue the thread further, take some time to examine the documented activities and circumstances surrounding urban moving systems, the dancing Israelis, and the family history of Michael Chertoff, who set them free. The most public revelation came from retired U.S. General Wesley Clark in 2007. Clark recounted being shown a classified Pentagon memo shortly after 9/11 outlining plans to take out 7 countries in 5 years: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing it off with Iran. The sequence closely mirrored the Yinon and Clean Break frameworks, dismantle Arab/Muslim states one by one, culminating in Iran as the final obstacle to unchallenged Israeli dominance in the Middle East. Despite this aggressive roadmap, Israel has a documented history of arming or indirectly supporting terrorist groups and adversaries it publicly condemns. It is well known the CIA and MI6 orchestrated the coup that overthrew democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, who had nationalized the country's oil industry and consolidated absolute power into the hands of the Shah. The Shah then became one of Israel's primary oil suppliers, while entering a 50-50 joint venture with Israel in the Eilat-Ashkelon trans-Israeli pipeline. He also maintained discreet Israeli military and intelligence ties, with Mossad helping to establish and train Iran's Savak secret police. After decades in power, the Shah publicly criticized the influence of the Jewish lobby in the U.S. with Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes, and his usefulness had run its course. He was overthrown just 3 years later. How convenient. After the Islamic Revolution, Israel nationalized Iran's 50% stake in the Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline company, taking 100% of the profits ever since. Just 1 year after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, even before the Iran-Contra affair, Israel heavily armed Iran, supplying them with weapons during the Iran-Iraq War, with a stated justification to prevent an Iraqi victory that could threaten Israel. Israel has also tolerated, funded, or armed terrorist groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS factions, Mujahideen networks linked to Al-Qaeda, and even Hamas, initially cultivated as a counterweight to secular PLO. Always with a stated justification, of course. These actions follow a classic divide and rule pattern. Arm one enemy to weaken another, then manage the resulting chaos. Adding even more layers to this apparent contradiction is the Obama-era Iran nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, finalized in 2015. Under the deal, Iran was permitted to retain its uranium enrichment program and infrastructure, including the ability to stockpile and import hundreds of tons of natural uranium while the agreement was in force. The deal included explicit sunset clauses that began expiring after 10 to 15 years, meaning many of the most restrictive limits on centrifuge numbers, enrichment levels, capped at 3.67% for the duration, and stockpile sizes would automatically lift, allowing Iran to legally resume advanced enrichment and potentially race toward weapons-grade material without violating the agreement. Additionally, the JCPOA delivered massive sanction relief, estimated in the tens to hundreds of billions of dollars over time, freeing up Iranian oil revenues and frozen assets that could be redirected toward any priority the regime chose. Compounding the financial windfall was the 2016 delivery of $1.7 billion in cash, euros, Swiss francs, and other currencies physically stacked on wooden pallets, as a settlement of a pre-1979 arms deal debt. This cash component was explained away because banking sanctions made wire transfers impossible. But Obama literally had the presidential authority to temporarily override sanctions and wire the money directly, which he had already done before. The only reason cash would have been sent instead is because it would be impossible to audit and trace where it ultimately went. Couldn't the funds return in the form of political donations or massive donations to institutes and foundations? This all coincided precisely with the release of American hostages, a mere cover, EU sanction relief, and the implementation of the JCPOA itself. To make matters worse, the Iran deal was kept from Congress and placed at the highest level of classification, meaning a U.S. senator could not review the deal, but other foreign powers could. Top of all this, Iran also received uranium through the Uranium One scandal. Uranium One, a Canadian company with mining rights in the U.S., was sold to Rosatom, Russia's state-owned atomic energy corporation. The deal required approvals from U.S. agencies under the Obama administration, including the State Department, then led by Hillary Clinton. During the approval process, the Clinton Foundation received donations from individuals and entities linked to Uranium One and Rosatom. All of this happened under the Obama administration. These provisions stand in stark contrast to President Obama's simultaneous record of providing Israel with more military aid than any previous American president, a level of support that continued and was later surpassed under Biden, widely known to be a senile puppet of Obama. Obama is the one who raised annual aid to Israel to $3.8 billion a year. Obama's chief of staff during this period was Rahm Emanuel, the son of a former Irgun fighter, the Irgun being the Zionist paramilitary Jewish terrorist organization active in the 1940s that was later absorbed into the IDF. This creates a profound surface-level contradiction. An administration that publicly positioned itself as restraining Iran's nuclear ambitions through diplomacy was simultaneously empowering Iran with natural uranium access, future breakout pathways via sunset clauses, and billions in sanctions relief and cash, all while extending unprecedented military backing to Israel and placing a direct descendant of Irgun lineage at the center of White House decision-making. The optics of Obama functioning as a pro-Iran asset versus the greatest friend Israel has ever had in terms of aid become difficult to reconcile without a deeper framework, one which considers that public alliances and enmities are largely false theater and really controlled by the same hidden power structure. This framework would see the same hidden hand enabled Iran's nuclear proliferation by laundering it through the Obama administration, which was portrayed as a Muslim Brotherhood-aligned Iran asset, thereby keeping its hands clean. Yet despite all of this Machiavellian scheming, Iran does possess weapons-usable material today. As of the IAEA's last verification, Iran held 440.9 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%. At 60%, this is highly enriched uranium, classified by both the IAEA and Department of Energy as direct use for nuclear explosives. Physics modeling shows as little as 40 to 60 kilograms of 60% uranium metal can produce crude implosion designs like Hiroshima's Little Boy. Too big to fit on a missile, but mobile enough that it could be delivered with a storage container. The step to 90% weapons grade is quick. Iran's advanced cascades at Fordow could yield enough for one bomb in under a week and multiple in 1 to 3 weeks, assembling a functional weapon from the existing 60% stockpile, 3 to 8 months. President Trump's Operation Midnight Hammer strikes entombed most of it at Isfahan tunnels. Ongoing Operation Epic Fury targets remnants, but the material remains buried, unmonitored, and in Iranian hands. This reality directly contradicts Iran's official religious and civilian assurances. The now-deceased Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was in power since 1989, has long cited a personal fatwa, religious edict, declaring nuclear weapons haram, forbidden under Islam. However, the fatwa only became publicly emphasized immediately after Iran's structured nuclear weapons program, known as the AMED Plan, was halted in late 2003 under intense international pressure following the U.S. invasion of Iraq and IAEA scrutiny. The AMAD program itself operated under Khamenei's leadership and included warhead design, high explosive testing, and integration with ballistic missiles. It was not shut down because of the fatwa. The fatwa emerged as the public narrative only after external forces forced the halt. Iran's stated justification for producing 60% enriched uranium that it is needed for nuclear propulsion in future ships or submarines also fails basic scrutiny. Iran has no operational nuclear-powered naval vessels, no prototypes under construction, no announced shipyard conversion plans, and no publicly shared reactor blueprints or fuel specifications for such a program. The claim was first made in 2021, shortly after a suspected sabotage incident at Natanz, and has been repeated without any technical follow-through. No non-nuclear weapon state has ever pursued 60% enrichment solely for naval propulsion without clear evidence of an actual program. The only comparable case is Brazil, which has a declared naval nuclear submarine project with actual prototypes and uses far lower enrichment levels while remaining fully transparent with the IAEA. In all fairness, Iran has been publicly cooperative with the IAEA over the last decade, unlike Israel, who has never signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. But Iran's enrichment to 60% far exceeds any credible civilian naval need and is well into the range that provides over 90% of the separative work required to reach weapons-grade material. Iran's assurance that the entire program remains exclusively peaceful and compliant with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty does not hold up when weighed against the full context. The AMAD nuclear weapons program halted only by external pressure, the conveniently timed fatwa, the absence of any tangible naval propulsion infrastructure despite years of claims, the highly enriched uranium at 60%, which is completely unnecessary for power reactors at 3 to 5% or even advanced research reactors, the massive stockpile accumulation far beyond civilian requirements, and the documented history of concealment in undeclared sites. When this full picture is taken into account, along with the Yinon/clean break expansionist roadmap and Israel's own history of arming terrorist groups and adversaries as a pretext for war, Obama blatantly aiding Iran's nuclear weapons program, the civilian narrative Iran offers appears as diplomatic cover rather than genuine intent. These are the same assurances JFK rejected from Israel, claims that their nuclear program was merely for peaceful purposes only, as he repeatedly demanded inspections. Even as Israel's long-term strategic documents reveal a calculated plan for regional hegemony that has unfolded over decades with Iran as its final target, the fact remains that Iran possesses a very real and immediate nuclear capability. This is not a Bush neocon WMD lie. The 60% enriched uranium stockpile exists. It has no plausible civilian justification, and Iran's openly hostile posture toward the United States cannot be dismissed. While Israel has a documented history of arming adversaries and terrorist groups when it suited its divide and rule objectives, that history does not negate the present danger posed by the terrorist groups or adversaries Israel and the CIA has armed or funded, including Iran. The threat of Iran's nuclear program is genuine and required action, even if the larger geopolitical chessboard is far more complex than the public narrative suggests. It's almost never what it seems to be on the surface. Making sense of these layered contradictions requires stepping outside conventional surface-level analysis. One needs only to look at the Rothschild family's well-documented history of funding both sides of major wars to begin grasping the deeper dynamic at play. This raises an uncomfortable question for Americans. Where exactly does that leave us in this conflict? Many voters supported President Trump in a landslide precisely because he promised to end endless wars and keep the United States out of new Middle East entanglements. History shows he mostly followed through on that pledge, ending multiple conflicts and insisting on direct negotiations with Iran, even as Netanyahu openly opposed the effort. When Israel launched strikes against Iran in June, derailing those ongoing talks, President Trump allowed the two sides to fight for 12 days, until Israel was nearly out of air defense missiles and facing an existential crisis. Only then did he intervene, striking Iran's nuclear facilities and forcing a ceasefire. What many still do not fully appreciate is the nuclear dimension that makes the situation uniquely dangerous. Israel possesses an undeclared nuclear arsenal, built in part with materials stolen from the United States, a fact corroborated in declassified U.S. government files. President Kennedy had been actively working to stop Israel's nuclear program and to force the Israel lobby, the American Zionist Council, which later became AIPAC, to register as a foreign agent. He was assassinated just 6 months after giving Israel a final ultimatum and before either effort could succeed. Declassified reports from the CIA, FBI, and GAO confirmed that about 600 pounds of highly enriched uranium disappeared from the NUMEC plant in Apollo, Pennsylvania in the mid-1960s. The facility's owner was a Jewish-American Zionist, Dr. Zalman Shapiro, who had deep ties to the Israeli government and active contracts with Israel. Shapiro was also a national officer of the Zionist Organization of America, which was a constituent of the Israel lobby umbrella organization, the American Zionist Council. The funding for NUMEC was organized by a confidant of Israeli Prime Minister Ben-Gurion and volunteer for a Jewish terrorist group called the Haganah. In 1976, CIA Deputy Director Carl Duckett concluded that the missing highly enriched uranium had been diverted to Israel's nuclear weapons program. Visits to NUMEC by Israeli espionage officials, including Refi, who later ran the Jonathan Pollard Israeli spy operation, immediately raised red flags. Circumstantial evidence, including soil samples and NUMEC's unusually heavy losses, pointed to theft or diversion. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon later hinted at their underlying protocol when he stated, "We are much more important than Americans think. We can take the Middle East with us whenever we go." A strategic advisory group known as Project Daniel, which counseled Sharon, openly discussed enhancing deterrence through nuclear mutually assured destruction, the doctrine commonly known as the Samson option, which is a term reportedly coined by David Ben-Gurion and other early Israeli leaders. Whether people are prepared to confront it or not, this is the reality President Trump has to navigate, and it extends far beyond the Samson option itself. Not only has the global mafia controlling this foreign entity entrenched itself into the highest echelons of U.S. institutional power, but Israeli companies have deeply embedded themselves inside America's critical infrastructure, from cyber systems to communications, energy grids, finance, and ports. It is essential to recognize that in an era when nuclear weapons have rendered direct kinetic conflict between major powers virtually impossible, statecraft has evolved into the domain of information operations and irregular warfare. If two nuclear-armed nations that appear to be allies are in fact engaged in a deeper, clandestine struggle, normal diplomatic relations and public posturing would be deliberately maintained as camouflage. Governments have historically used back channels in different situations, most famously the one President Kennedy employed with the Soviet Union during the Cuban Missile Crisis, to de-escalate between openly hostile adversaries while preserving plausible deniability. That was a government-to-government channel between declared opponents. What is unprecedented is the use of unofficial online forums as a direct back channel from U.S. military intelligence to the American public, about an internal struggle against a hidden power structure. This back channel did happen, and it was the first of its kind in American history. It was as unprecedented as a populist outsider like President Trump being elected, and it happened during his first administration. It operated through anonymous online platforms, employing cryptic, deniable messaging consistent with established psychological operations doctrine. This approach bypassed compromised corporate media, reached a large enough segment of the population to disseminate information irregularly, and avoided any breach of classification statutes. That back channel was Q. Q has been shown through hundreds of documented, mathematically impossible coincidences, known as Q-proofs, to have coordinated directly with President Trump. It functioned as an information campaign to convey messages in context that a sitting president could not state openly for reasons that should seem obvious. Q was a communication vector originating from military intelligence and the NSA, explicitly targeting the CIA, Mossad, and the Rothschild financial intelligence structure that controls them. This explains why Edward Snowden was activated to attack only the NSA, despite spending the majority of his career at the CIA. Ask yourself, why leak information exclusively about the NSA after only a brief time there, yet never target any CIA programs despite spending the majority of his career inside that agency? Because just as we became more trackable and surveilled, so did they.
Yeah. Hey, why is that? Right? Does anyone get that? Does that make sense? Why is that? Why would Edward Snowden at the NSA come out and have a bunch of things to say just about the NSA when he'd worked at the CIA for much, much longer and probably had seen much, much worse?
Snowden was paraded by the establishment media as a hero and continually trotted out as a featured speaker, while Julian Assange was ruthlessly villainized and simply disappeared from coverage once the news cycle moved on. This should tell you everything.
They're all PSYOPs. It's all a PSYOP. Labeling Epstein as a single actor instead of one of a huge web of people is a PSYOP. It is a limited hangout. They launder the truth in little tiny crumbs, pun intended, like they did through Q posts, while flooding anons with other things that are also irrelevant. So again, they take a concentrated truth, drop it onto you, desensitize you to it, and then diffuse it and dilute it and normalize it into the society. This image that you'll Google during this stream, if you're hearing this, and you see Sydney Sweeney for Euphoria Season 3 dressed as a baby in a pornographic scene, they're trying to normalize and fetishize terrible things being done to an infant. That wouldn't be on an HBO show a decade ago or 20 years ago. And if someone suggested it 30 years ago, they'd be indicted. But today, they're putting it on Showtime or whatever it is. So again, some of these little PSYOPs that you're told are good for you, like Q, they tell you little bits of truth. But then what good does it do for you to know that it's happening, to see it, evidenced in front of you, to read between the lines and see that things are ongoing, really bad things in the world, and then have nothing happen? Is that then the trick that's on you? If you read these posts and you hear these things and you believe this, you say, oh my God, wow, okay, so these really are terrible things going on in the world. People really are trafficking children. People really are eating people, harvesting organs and blood, which is an organ, and other things from these victims. But then nothing ever happens. Does it do you any good to even know about it? Does the declassification of it help? Does disclosure happen without justification? In the Epstein files, there are posts, there are emails back and forth about establishing 4chan and about creating these posts on this board. And so people immediately go, oh, there you go, Steve Bannon. We assumed he was in the Q movement. He was in the Q group. Now we can assume Epstein was one of the Q posters. Jeffrey Epstein, Q posting. Steve Bannon, Q posting. Trump being framed as in on it when he may not have been, as a way for the other guys to control these back channels. For us to all believe that there's a clandestine operation and that Trump is the head of it was, as the media said, a long shot. It's less hard to believe that the advisors around Trump were close enough to him to get him to post a thing while they posted something on 4chan, and while he's none the wiser to what they're actually doing on 4chan. They're just typing away on their computer and they go, yeah, I proofread something. I sent it to you. It's in your drafts. Will you hit post? And he goes, oh yeah, hang on a second. That's good. Okay. And post. And as he clicks it, they're over here on 4chan typing something else, running an op. Is that possible? I don't know. It's possible Trump is in on it, and it's possible that we're all being told, hey, forget about Q, forget about all that. There is no plan. There is no ongoing black flag, white flag effort to save the country. Forget all that. And as I've begun the stream to say, can you imagine a plan that only works if everyone else takes their eye off of it? Like Lord of the Rings, right? You got a little hobbit taking the ring, and Sauron could never possibly see him trafficking the ring. He's looking at the armies. He's looking at these other guys. He's looking at the wizard. He's looking at all the other big things ongoing. He wouldn't look at the little dumb hobbit because that's impossible. That would never happen. And that's how they make it happen. Is it possible that the Q thing included a bunch of these bad people to expose them, and you have to give up hope and quit believing in it and allow yourself to accept that it was a con for it to now work to its completion? If the enemy knew and got on to you, wouldn't you have to change tactics? So the rest of this is just telling you that they're going to still be taking Israel down. It's another half an hour. I don't think we're going to get through it, but I'll drop the link in the chat. If you would, hit the like button, share a link to the show, subscribe, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are as I drop this into the chat. We are live on Odyssey, Rumble, Pill.net, X, and YouTube. And I appreciate you being here for it. If you would, hit the like button, like I said. Make sure that you're following or subscribing. If you have the ability to jump over to, I don't even care if it's like a Facebook or a whatever chat, an eBay comment, a recent purchase on Amazon, just take the link from the stream, wherever you're watching it, and then go post it somewhere. Because I'm pretty sure the algorithm is going to know that link was copy pasted and put somewhere else on the internet. And then it'll go, ooh, this is a popular link. It's being shared a lot. If you're on YouTube, hype it, all the things. And I appreciate that. All right, here we go. Posting the link over to Rumble. If you want to watch the rest of this, we're 28 minutes into it, 24 minutes into it. And I just summarized the rest of it for you there, I'm assuming. So, okay, we've been live long enough. Let's hang it up. What did they say? What was the rest of it? Let's just go look. They had J.D. Vance.
Tell us about it. Well, we've already gotten a lot of bad guys. And this is, one of the things I'm very proud about. Progress, but the reason why the deal is not yet done is because the president, he really wants a deal where Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, Iran is not state-sponsoring terrorism, but also the people of Iran can thrive and prosper and join the world economy. And that's the trade that he's offering. He's saying, if you guys...
That's not the plan, because he just told you at the beginning of the stream, Trump was sending them arms knowing that they were just going to go to the terrorists. He was told, if you send them arms, they're just going to go to the IRGC. And he's like, okay, well, hey, let's send them some arms. Oops, they went to the IRGC, just like you said. Oh, they're using them to flatten Israel. It's a great way to claim that you're being a humanitarian. Trump can't say, hey, I'm joining Iran and going to war with Israel, because they'd take him out instantly. They'd impeach him 5 times in a day. But instead, Trump can put on blush and paint himself up real good and go, hi, Israel, I'm your new best friend and I'm never going away. And then he can be the poison pill. So Trump, I believe, just based on what I'm looking at, and again, I've only predicted everything right this whole last year, I think Trump is going to be the poison pill in Israel's drink. I think he knows who is behind the fake impeachments. He knows who's behind all the bad things. He knows who the enemy really is. He's not stupid. He may play stupid on TV, and sometimes it's very believable and it's very irritating, and it has to be. In order for him to get away with the things that he's doing, I think it has to be. People can believe that he's in the Epstein files. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to think that. As soon as Elon was brought into the fray, Trump tells him something. They have a falling out very publicly. And then Elon says, oh, he's in there. All right. Does that not kind of take the air out of the balloon for Israel? If Israel's blackmail was Trump's in those files and he's bad, then doesn't it help to see a bunch of files not containing Donald Trump? Meanwhile, Donald Trump's already been publicly accused by someone close to him, and now it's been seen to not be true. Can you step by step dog walk people through reality to distill in them the truth without them having to even hear it phrased that way? Because, some people just will not believe it. If you came out to the people and you said, turns out our government was hijacked when they killed Kennedy, and it's the Israelis who've been selecting and choosing who gets to run since then. So we've never had an honest campaign since. And the people who decide to play ball right off the bat, they know they're making a decision to take their life in their hands and then give it over to the Israelis, who will hold it along with all their blackmail and then control them with it. And the moment they step out of line, their airplane falls apart in the sky, or they have engine trouble on the highway and blow up, or whatever. They get anthrax, or whatever. So a crazed gunman goes to their house and kills them and their whole family. We've seen it 100 times. This is how the CIA gets back at you. This is what Chuck Schumer was referring to when Trump said, we will take on the intelligence agencies. He said, no, you won't. Israelis won't let you do that. They will use our intelligence agents to kill you. So it just makes sense to me to even make room in your heart, make room in your mind for 1% hope to hold out that Trump knows full well all the different knives to his back and guns at his head. He knows who's out to get him. And so he's going to doll himself up and go and play the part so bombastically and be so caustic to the pro-Israel movement that no one could ever see themselves being a Zionist again. They called him Hitler 2.0 because they were afraid that he would expose them for what they are doing. And that despite his actions not being reflective at all of a Hitler 2.0, they called him that because they knew the result would end up in their exposure. So they first said, no, Trump, he's terrible, he'll be the worst. And then finally now they have to run with him. And now he's doing everything they say. And so they're now saying he's the best, he's the greatest. Mark Levin. But at a certain point, he gets horse-collared too many times, gets yanked around and embarrassed too many times, and the ship begins to sink. And as it was pointed out, Trump allowed a 12-day war. He allowed for Israel to be entirely flattened. And then right there where they're on the brink, he pauses Iranian strikes on Israel. How is that possible if he's not on their side somehow? And we know about all the back channels with Kushner and Lutnick. But we also know that anyone can determine the source of a leak if you use some dye. If you just tell one person one thing, another person another, and you can determine who's saying what when you hear it come out. This isn't hard. Anyways, okay. That's probably it for me here. If you would hit the like button, share a link to the show. Questions in the chat. How did Israel get a stronghold in the first place in the U.S.? Well, as this little doodad here was describing, as this video was explaining, Israelis just continued to creep and creep and creep after World War II, after the creation of Israel, into our government, first through influence and then through selected campaign efforts and then through owning individuals and then owning entire blocks of people in Congress, and then infiltrating intel agencies to use them to make it easier to install the people that you would otherwise have to first corrupt. Now you don't have to corrupt them. Now you raise them and create them. It's far easier for the government to select its representatives than to have an honest representative become elected, then have intel look at them and go, fuck, now we got to find a bunch of blackmail on this person. It's a lot easier for them to just have generated the candidate in the first place and then seed them into your area, and they announce their campaign and you're like, well, there's a guy in my area who's running. Little did you know that he was raised on the farm in Virginia as a CIA boy. How they ever thought we would believe this. And I guess I should give them some credit. A lot of dumbasses do believe this. These texts, these messages. They were Discord messages, right? Yeah, they were Discord screenshots. And then Discord comes out and says, nope, we have the servers. That's not real. And the roommate's like, and they go, shh, you don't say another word. You're in the wind. The roommate is in protective custody as a witness. And these were just text messages. We're not taking any more questions at this time. And the rubes at home who believe Charlie was shot from the front with a 30-06, but there was no exit wound, they'll also believe that these texts, they look real enough. Hey, the news printed them. They printed them on a paper, took a photo of the paper, printed it out, put it in this. Do you understand this? This isn't a picture of the texts. This is a picture of text that they wrote. They wrote a script. They printed the script. They took an angled photo of the script to cause drama. It's shaded at the top, see? It's not even been stapled in the corner. They just printed this hot off the printer, fresh ink, took a photo of it, and then injected it into the story to, create the appearance of there having been a paper trail. Do you see how they do this? I have no doubt in my mind that the kid, Lance Twiggs, very interesting little CIA name there, that he created this image and then showed the image to the cop, and the cop takes a photo of the phone showing the image. It's all so insane. Imagine that. Imagine like you're 21 and a girl's like, hey, I'm going to send you a picture of my tits. And then she sends you a photo of a device like this where you can kind of see in the background. It's like if I show, hey, I'm going to show you a sunset. Ready? There it is. Beautiful. Can't you see? In all its detail, there's a sunset. Oh, there's a little bit of glare. Can you see the sunset now? That's the evidence. And it's like you took a screenshot of the stream and then you clipped that little corner image and said, here, I have a picture. The veracity of these messages is in question. Okay. I've jawed enough. Hit the like button, share a link to the show, subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next one. Keep America afloat. Keep your spirits high. Keep your head above water in the information war. I'll remember what the saying was and we'll get it back down. I'll see you on the next one. Adios. Bum, 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 bum.